Wolfpack, what is going on? It's your boy, the Wolf of Roto Street. RotoStreetJournal.com, we breed and feed you fantasy wolves here with the Week 10 Sit Start Show. Only a few more weeks till the fantasy playoffs are here. Wins are paramount, whether you're trying to get into the dance, protect your first place seed, or even just avoid last place. Hopefully none of you listening to this show are in that position, but you never know. Let's dive on into the Week 10 slate. Get all the news you need to know real quick, and then on to all of your questions. Cannot wait to answer them, help you out for these next couple of hours. We do have that 9:30 London game, or Berlin, I believe, Germany game as well. So especially if you have a Colts versus Falcons question, try to make sure you get that one in earlier often. And then, of course, if you need to cut the line, especially for that game, the Super Chat is your best friend. It helps your boy out so much. It will help you guys cut the line. And it's so greatly appreciated. But a free way to help your boy as we dive on in here is the thumbs up button. It does help us out so much. Let's dive in, Wolfpack, though. Some quick Week 10 Thursday Night Football takeaways. And I know if you watch this game, you're probably like, don't give this game any more time. It does not deserve to have any breath spent on it. And I largely agree. Bo Nix, god-awful. 150 yards, touchdown, 2 interceptions, -2 yards on the ground, given those kneel downs. It was abysmal. And with that type of output, there wasn't going to be much pass catching production to be had. Troy Franklin did lead the way with 9 targets with 5 catches, had a touchdown and 40 yards as well. So if you had him in your lineup, I had a tweet about how he was out-producing and out-targeting Cortland Sutton over their last 3 games together. That one ended up panning out. What didn't pan out, unfortunately, was the run game with, of course, R.J. Harvey, a brutal game. 9 yards on the ground, 9 yards through the air. He was on a 3-game touchdown streak entering this game, and then ultimately completely flopped. I was a significant amount above ECR on him. That one's not going to help my accuracy rankings this week, unfortunately, and hopefully you guys avoided him, but if you had him in your lineup, you're obviously in a hole. And that, of course, also helps us with the context. If you guys let us know, hey, I started Harvey, now I'm a 30% underdog, that type of stuff. That'll help us give you the best answers as well, because maybe you need a little bit more upside. Maybe that's where we do roll the dice on a Jameson Williams, whatever type of guy that might be. We did have J.K. Dobbins look solid again, 18 carries, 77 yards, had a couple catches in there as well. Did have a foot injury that he's waiting a second opinion on, so we definitely need to track that. So frustrating how Peyton just outright refuses to give this guy any type of red zone work. He's slippery. He gets behind his blockers. He churns through contact. The perfect guy that could be your goal line back and make some of these trick plays. He gets so cute, Sean Payton, in the red zone, really on 3rd and short, anytime. He's just so cute about it. But very frustrating as a J.K. Dobbins owner to watch this guy just churn and churn and churn, and then ultimately never get rewarded with a TD. On the Raiders side of things, Geno was not any better than Bo Nix. In fact, worse, 143 yards, scoreless, interception before exiting. The lead receiver, Tyler Lockett, 5 of 6 targets, 44 yards. It's not a passing game I'm sprinting out to get, but again, those deep leagues, desperate situations with some huge bye weeks, especially in Week 12 coming, maybe Tyler Lockett. They got the Cowboys next week as well. Could make a little noise. I do think Trey Tucker is certainly still the preferred guy. He led the team with 60 routes, clearly almost double the next closest Tyler Lockett there. So I do think Trey Tucker is still the guy you want here. Brock Bowers, of course, will be the guy you want, but really disappointing after facing me, destroying me. It was a 95% favorite entering 4 o'clock last week, and then Brock Bowers just stole my lunch and destroyed me, gave me a wedgie. Awful. And then he follows that up with a 1-catch, 31-yard day. 3 targets, more targets going to Michael Mayer, to Tyler Lockett. What are we doing? And then Ash and Genty. Of course, I was facing Franklin and Genty, the only 2 players to get into the end zone. Yay, what a great start. Now, granted, it was the second drive for Genty. He only ended up with 60 yards in that touchdown, so I thought I was in for a much bigger spanking. Thankfully, he did cool off. Gross game, though. I didn't want to spend more than 5 minutes. We're at 4 minutes right now. Let's just move on and get into the news. It does look like we started off with my man, Mass Football Guy. Before we dive into the news, did send in a super chat. My guy, thank you so much for that. Pitts, Theo Johnson, or Otten. This is a perfect example of if you need to get in that 9:30 game, this is what you got to do. That is a tough call, and I'm actually doing my tight end rankings, doing a little bit of adjusting on the fly. I'm a little too low on Otten as we speak. I do think this one's going to still end up being Pitts, but I am bumping Otten up a handful of spots here, even above Zach Ertz. I like him a lot. Theo Johnson has been a red zone machine. I'm going to lean onto Pitts, though. I'm going to go Pitts in that Indy matchup, not in the best of spots, but that could be a fun little Berlin game. No Buckner, which I know is not going to necessarily impact Pitts. But you think now that they have, Sauce Gardner, that's probably going to mean Drake London's getting very, very tight coverage. We'll see how much he plays, how well he fits into the scheme right from the jump. But I think Pitts could get a bit of work from there. So I just want to double check Pitts's recent game log. 7 targets, not bad, 9-10. So, good volume the last few games. The output has not necessarily matched that volume, as is typical for Kyle Pitts. But I think Theo Johnson, very, very touchdown dependent. You either get the score or it's a complete and utter flop. I do like Cade Otton, though. I feel like Tez is really stepping in, and we'll talk about Tez Johnson for sure, one of my favorite sleepers of the week. He's really kind of stepped in, though, and been the more productive guy. But I do think that something about Hutton just feels like the safer floor of all of these guys. Do I go him all the way above Kyle Pitts, though? That would feel a little bit like a stretch to me. So I'm gonna stick with Kyle Pitts. I think the upside is there, especially again with London getting so much defensive attention, taking the number one coverage of there. I think that the one last thing I'm going to check for you at Mass Football Guy, just points against, and make sure we have this. In addition to letting me know to your guys' stakes and whatnot, it's always awesome to know where you're coming from. I want to make sure to say that at the jump. So as you get your questions in, I'm commenting from, we've had Australia, we've had Panama, of course, just old Boston, wherever you might be from. But it is nice to know. Yeah, so the Colts are, by the way, just middling in the road. I want to make sure they weren't one of those like, oh, wow, you're surprised that this team is just erasing tight ends. No, they've been middle of the road, it looks like, against tight end. In fact, the 4th most points to the position, which is quite solid. A lot of that's buoyed because of Rondé Gadsden just going absolutely nuclear, but they have definitely given up some healthy points to the tight end. So, yeah, I'm going to go with Kyle Pitts. I think that's a solid one. And I know I know Campanelli over there in the mod seat, you were asking about Kyle Pitts versus Loveland. Now that Komet's in, I do think it's tough to put that genie back in the bottle, but one of the few things that the G-men do well is defending the tight end weirdly. So bad against receivers and quite stymieing against tight ends so far this year. So I might actually pivot that one and go to Pitts just to see what happens with Loveland now that Komet is fully healthy and going to be in there. So, yeah, I like Pitts today. Good matchup. London, the focus of that attention. He's my tight end 9, so I am leaning into that direction. My man, Louis Perez, he's a 40% underdog, good context to have. So you need the upside. Start Monangai, Tez, Slayton, G. Will today. So I'm guessing you're asking about Garrett Wilson, and I'm playing Garrett Wilson where I have him. I know it's sketchy, but the Browns, the way they stop you is certainly suffocating your run game. They are a phenomenal front seven, very good at limiting running back production. Fine against receivers, but not nearly the avoid type of spot as their run D is. And to receivers, they are giving up the 13th most points. So it's actually a plus half of the league type of matchup for wide receivers. So I have him at wide receiver 11. The volume's been there all year. Seems like he got himself healthy over the bye and is expected to play. So I like Garrett Wilson. Now, if he's in consideration over these 3, I play Garrett Wilson. If you're the underdog, you need some upside. The thing is, Louis, you outlined 3 of my favorite guys this week, all of them dripping in some upside, some of the bigger questions, bigger stories of the week. You're highlighting in this question. I feel like you always ask a question that has all the buzzy guys of the week. So thank you, Louis. I'm not planting you to do this, but I do appreciate it. I would say, the Giants are getting so crushed on the ground. And we had Ben Johnson come out and say, this is going to be a hot hand approach. Both guys will get work. I think both guys could just absolutely feast against this Giants defense. They are in DVOA, all those metrics, the worst run, even worse than the Dolphins in certain metrics, even worse than the Bengals in some metrics, who we just saw Monangai feast upon. Now, we do know DeAndre Swift is expected to be active. We do know Ben Johnson said it will be a hot hand approach. I think both these guys are going to get a lot of work. We know Johnson is very adept at finding your weakness and just pounding at it. And I do think the Giants are a very clear run funnel. You can pass on them too. They suck. The only thing they defend well, like I mentioned, was the tight end. The Giants are abysmal as a overall unit. And I think that makes a path for all the running backs, both Swift and Monangai, to get there. So gun to my head, I think I would pull the trigger here on Monangai. If it is full PPR, Louis Perez, though, don't be shocked if Tez has a sneaky big game. I wrote about him. There's an article on the website, rotostreetjournal.com. We breed and feed you fantasy wolves. There is a article I wrote about Tez because I have Tez in a bunch of leagues, and I do think there is true stretch run hero upside to Tez. It's the right offense, the right environment to potentially foster something of that nature. He ultimately ran 96% of the routes his last game out and 9+ PPR points in 4 straight weeks. Godwin's going to be banged up the next 4. And what he does really well is the screen game, and he's only gotten 1 screen designed for him so far this year, and he ripped it for a 22-yard touchdown. So then you see that bye week where coaches kind of have the time to study the tape, game plan around what they're seeing. We see a lot of post-bye rookie bumps, and they don't really have much of a choice but to bump up Tez Johnson. I imagine that we're going to get a lot of man coverage on Ibuka with Gonzalez over there. Excuse me. And so that's going to make me a little bit. I love Ibuka. Don't get me wrong. He's going to still have a big game. But if Tez is getting the secondary coverage, we've had the Pats. I say we, my favorite team here, New England guy. They have struggled against secondary number 2s. I know Drake London feasted, but all of those big, huge catches came against non-Gonzalez coverage snaps last week, those 3 touchdowns, which is crazy. So I do think Tez, there's a lot of juice there. I would just certainly, and Slayton does have his path too. The Bears are a bad defense. He's a deep threat. He's got a few broken plays away from having monster stats in a few back-to-back games. He just keeps getting in his own way or phantom OPI calls. So very good options all around the board. I like Monangai, I think, the most here, even as the 40% underdog. Tez is very close there in a full PPR. That gap gets even closer. I think my bias is like I have Tez and I'm screaming, go Tez, join me on it. But I probably would go Monangai on this one. Thank you so much, Perez, for the super chat. Logan Tillman, thank you so much for the super chat. Woody Marks or Ken Walker, full PPR. I'm just kind of done with the Seahawks backfield in terms of fantasy production. Certainly Walker, when you're having every single touchdown vultured from you. I like Woody Marks. It seems like this team really, in neutral to trailing game scripts, it's going to be the Woody Marks show. Now, if they get up big, the Texans, they're just going to want to pound it in Nick Chubb, and it's going to be horrible. You're going to want to puke. But to me, at least Woody Marks has the pass catching upside, has some touchdown juice to him as well with the big play upside. In the full PPR too, you get those receiving points as well. And he does have, Woody Marks, a good amount. I'm just going to pull up his game logs, but I believe he's got like at least half his games. He's got 4 or more targets in lately, 5, 4, 3, 1, 5. So yeah, I mean, solid enough targets in the receiving game there. I know he was abysmal last week with the 10 carries and 27 yards, awful 2.7 yards per pop. But we have seen some juice out of Woody Marks on the season. Before last week's dud was the running back 18 back-to-back weeks. And as much as I love Ken Walker, the player, wish that he was doing better. It is funny because these are my running backs 24 and 25. I do have Marks at 24, though. Couldn't be closer, same tier, all that jazz. But I go Woody Marks, especially with that full PPR, boosting the higher receiving ceiling. Mr. Fellow, what is going on? Thank you so much again for your super chats, folks. You're so kind. Greatly appreciate it. And Mr. Fellow, I know you're doing this routinely each and every week, so thank you so much. Breece Hall or Wandale? We got to pick one. And this might sound crazy coming off of, a 30-something point day for Breece Hall. It came against Cincinnati, who everybody destroys. You could see that he's kind of just like done with this team based on the fact that he didn't get traded, which I know is a little bit poor sporty, but he was so pissed. It's more so that the Cleveland Browns are just so good against running backs. And Wandale, the Bears are down to their nickel corner for sure. I believe another starting corner, and they already weren't good in the secondary. And you got the full PPR. Like if this was half, or certainly if there was no PPR, you just go with Breece Hall, you go for the touchdown upside. But in full PPR, where Wandale is just routinely catching 9 balls, seeing 12+ targets, even if it only goes for 40 yards, it was some of the most inefficient work. He does rack up the catches with the best of them. My gut says Wandale here, Anthony. It's such a safe floor because that target volume, again, the matchup is there. I think the Bears will put on some good points, which means the Giants will be throwing to play pace to try to catch up. I'm going to go with Wandale on this one, which might stun a lot of people, but that Cleveland defense is no joke. Second fewest points allowed to running backs. and they've been really swallowing teams up. So I'm going to go with Wandale in a full PPR setting there, Mr. Fella. Thank you guys again so much to kick off the show with that many super chats. It's very kind, very generous of you. Let's now dive into some quick news, and then it's on to all of your questions. And there's not a ton of news, so we'll be able to get through this in about 10 minutes at most, I would say. So let's just quickly rip through this. At quarterback, we know that Jayden Daniels is out, so Mariota is making the start, and most often a top 15 quarterback because he does have that rushing upside. I'd rather go Brissett. He's got no games without 20 points or more, so Brissett has really been cooking so far. But ultimately, Daniels will avoid surgery, so good news on his front. 3 to 6 games, they're going to reevaluate out of the bye. Not a must-hold, but I've seen him dropped in a lot of leagues, and if you have the bench spot, not the worst guy to just stash on there, if nothing else, to let the guy get a ring with the squad. Not that he's necessarily earned it this year. He's been significantly stepped back, but he's been hurt. His weapons have been hurt. I'd give him a pass. I'll be right back in on him next year. Not a must-hold, but again, if you have the bench space, it's fine usage of the spot. I'd cut him in most situations where I have him, despite the fact that it's good news. He doesn't need to have surgery. Darren Glenn will have a quarterback when asked who would start Week 10's game against the Browns. What a competitive advantage you're gaining. It should be Justin Fields. We might find out last minute that they pivot to Tyrod Taylor. It's a tough D either way. I don't think I want either of these guys starting for me in fantasy, especially Fields in the sense of the one thing that you started for is rushing upside, and this is a run defense that has been absolutely stymieing. So I don't love going to either of these quarterbacks. It would be a boost for Garrett Wilson and for Mason Taylor. If we do get Tyrod Taylor, I'm expecting it to be Justin Fields coming off a win last time out there. It'd be crazy to me if he did not go to Justin Fields. Either way, hopefully you don't have to go to Justin Fields. All righty, we got Brock Purdy questionable. Sounds like Matt Jones will be making the start either way. I'd love to see Purdy back in there for my Kittle shares. Ultimately, though, we did see Juwan Jennings start to pick it up a little bit last week. Matt Jones has just been so solid in relief. So ultimately, I do like I like going to my usual 49ers. I think that game, 48.5 over-under, if I'm not mistaken, should be a fun divisional shootout at the 4 o'clock slate and 4 o'clock window. Moving on to the Week 10 running back news. We got almost 1,000 of you here. We have not even hit the 20-minute mark. You guys are awesome. One call out for that thumbs up button, the heart button on Twitter, the likes, the shares, the retweets. It really does help us grow and get out to more people. Very thankful to have so many of you here with me this bright and early, jumping in. So great. Thank you again so much for spending your morning. We have crossed that 1,000 threshold. The likes, the subscribes, all that stuff so greatly helps us out. And these rankings will be live and updated at rotostreetjournal.com right around the 9:15-20 mark. I have to take a quick pause to publish the rankings because we do have that 9:30 Berlin game. If there's any changes that I make throughout the show, which I like to do, I like to answer without my rankings fully pulled up and I adjust on the fly. You guys are, that's why I love doing this show. It really helps me think through the rankings. Who does my gut like? Balance with the research I've done into the rankings, and I kind of finalize them and then post them after the show. But I have to hit them at 9:32 to make sure if there's any London or Berlin, whatever, wherever we're playing this game at 9:30 this morning. But let's move on to the running back news. Couple quick notes that James Cook, he's not on the injury report. A few people this week running in took Wednesday off and limited Thursday, back to full and Friday. You expect the guy just to go bananas against Miami today. One of the best picks you could have made this year. Rico Dowdle, speaking of best picks you could have made, one of the true league winners of the season, it's looking like, will be Rico Dowdle. He's off the injury report. They're facing the Saints. He is going to demolish them. I believe he's only 6,300 on DraftKings, too. Will be one of the most popular plays, and understandably so. 130 yards and a touchdown on 25 carries. Had that bell cow, Dave Canales, super valuable role. Love Rico Dowdle. We got some questions on him last week, and understandably so. It was his first start. I was +5 ECR on him, not to my own home, but I just love what we're seeing from Rico Dowdle this year. I think at this point, everybody at this point, there's probably no questions on Dowdle, but if you do have him, let me know. We already addressed the Bears running back situation, but just to reiterate, Monangai off the injury report will play. DeAndre Swift will be active as well, despite missing Friday's practice with a personal matter. Ben Johnson did say he believes in using a hot hand, and it's going to be hard to argue that Kyle Monangai doesn't have that right now. After 175 yards, a monstrous day. Came against the Bengals, but the Giants are really just as bad, and there's certain run D metrics where they're actually even worse than the Bengals. So I think both these guys are absolutely in play because it's not like, despite Monangai's explosion, Swift was playing some great ball as well. So both these guys right in play. I have Swift just a couple spots higher than Monangai. I have Monangai at 20 and Swift at 17. Both those guys clearly in play for me today. We'll continue with the running back news, but we did have another super chat coming on in. It was Mohammed Solomon, and it looks like his question's at 8:03, says my man Campanelli. So, Mohammed, let us pull you up here. 8:03. Thanks for the super chat. And then Campanelli, thanks for pulling that up. Should I start Slayton, Otten, or Downs at wide receiver? Or it must be a flex because you got Otten in this question as well. Interesting one. I would like to know, is it full PPR, half PPR? I'm going to assume half when I don't have the context. And in that situation, I think I'm going to go with Darius Slayton. I know, again, the final counting stats haven't been amazing these last few weeks, but 7, 5, and 6 targets across his last few games, and like just a hair away from a few massive plays. You get a Bears secondary that's down their top 2 corners and wasn't good anyways. I think they're going to be chasing points as well, the Giants. So I like Slayton, I think, here. In a full PPR, it might be safer to pivot over to Downs, who does get some solid work out of the slot. He scored in 2 of his last 3 games. I like Josh Downs a lot. But Slayton, to me, just feels a little bit juicier if it was a half PPR setting. Going for those big plays, in my opinion, is where I would attack that one. Thank you again so much, Mohammed, for your super chat. Good sir. Alrighty, just to wrap up some running back news here, and then we will be on to the receivers, tight ends, and on to all of your questions. Thank you again so much for the super chats. Thank you so much for the support. 1,200. Love to see these early morning numbers. You guys are the best. We also, no surprise, but Bucky Irving not out. Rashad White asked me any questions about him, but I'll admit I'm significantly lower than the ECR on him. The Patriots have not given up a 50-yard rusher at all this year, and they faced Bijan, they faced Achane, they faced some big names. Still no 50-yard rushers on the year allowed, the fewest points allowed to running backs by a mile. I don't believe it's since 1950 that a team hasn't allowed a 50-yard rusher at this point. So pretty insane stats there. Hampton, the latest update we got on him, just for the looking down the line here, he's off working the side on Friday, not an official practice, not limited or anything. He was just on the side jogging, but a positive sign. The Jim Harbaugh said they're going to open the practice window after the Week 12 bye, so we still have a few weeks anyways. But hopefully you're getting this guy for your playoff stretch run for sure. A solid schedule moving forward in that stretch run as well. So if you're in that position to maybe buy low, it'd be low at this point. But if his owner's panicking, they need something to win right now, you could swap Vidal for him and just help his owner out. Give him a hand and go get yourself O'Marion Hampton for your stretch runs. Would be intrigued to try to do something of that nature. Ramondre is out. Similar to the Bucs, the Patriots will also be who are facing the Bucs. It's 2 pass funnel defenses, very good run deep for both the Bucs and the Pats, which makes me very excited for this game for Tez Johnson, for, of course, the bigger names as well. I think this is going to feature a lot of passing. Trevion, in this type of matchup we saw against the pass funnel Cleveland defense, they did get Trevion going on the outside a little bit. Getting him involved as a pass catcher would be amazing here as the featured back. I do like Trevion, but I do prefer, I prefer DeAndre Swift, maybe even Monangai at this point. Given the soft matchup for those guys, even as a featured back, you're still getting Terrell Jennings vulturing in there. So actually, I'm bumping Monangai above Henderson. Monangai up to 19, Henderson up to 20, or down to 20 rather. Still like the guy. I just waiting for that coming out party, but I think against a tough Bucs defense, they did have a 30-point dropped on them by Jahmyr Gibbs, but otherwise have been quite stiff against the run. Aaron Jones, he is expected to play at this point, which does make if I have to pick a Vikings back, if I have to, it would be Jones. This Bears defense was a must-target matchup for running backs early in the year, but since welcoming back Roquan Smith and some of those other defensive reinforcements, it seems like it's the trend we saw last year where the Ravens were first half of the season, pepper anybody you can against them. Second half of the season, they became a very stiff defense. Maybe that's going to be the case. I'm excited for this game. So I don't mind playing Aaron Jones, especially when I expect the Vikings to be in a tight to trailing script that would be more Aaron Jones. He played more snaps than Mason. I'm not touching Mason either way. He's, I believe, -5, -6 ECR in the rankings. Don't want any of that. And the last running back note we have is a very useful one from Jonathan Gannon. The running back split will be similar, but not the same, maybe a little bit different, is his quote about who will be his running back. He also notes that him and Drew Petzing have not discussed who the starter will be as of Saturday. Okay. Really useful stuff there, Jonathan Gannon, getting a real competitive advantage, I am sure. Moving on to wide receiver, and 1,300 of you here, please consider hitting that thumbs up button. If you enjoy the content, you like what you're hearing, we'll be on to all of your questions in about 5 minutes at this point, Wolfpack. And thank you again, all you have super chatted. Means the world. So kind of you, so generous. And rotostreetjournal.com is where you can find all this content and updated rankings. Tet McMillan added to the injury report on Friday, expected to play. But to me, if I can bench him, I'm going to. I understand that there are situations where you can't. But as a measuring stick, I'd rather have Tez Johnson in my lineup just because it's one of those things. Sure, he's healthy enough to play. What if he aggravates it and then suddenly you have a goose egg? And you can sometimes justify that. An A.J. Brown plays a little banged up. Okay, but I know at least he has a 30-point ceiling if he hits. We've only had one game that he's scored in so far. He has only, and it was against the Cowboys. Everybody scores against them. He had 2 touchdowns that game. He has no other touchdowns. He's seen fine target volume, but it's one of those things, and I said this on the Thursday show, that eyeball test-wise, Tet looks amazing. I think as experts and rankers, we're then taking this eyeball test and like, oh, he has to be a top 25 receiver. He's a number 1 receiver. He looks the part. But when you actually look at the stats, they just want to run, and Bryce Young's is just not that solid, at least in terms of feeding his number 1 receiver right now. I'll just read you quickly. His wide receiver finishes on the year: 30, 27, 45, 36, 28, 12 is season high, 57, 14, and 49. 2 good weeks, 4 passable weeks, and the rest are not very exciting. So I'm a bit lower on Tet McMillan because it's, again, if you're going to absorb that risk of what if he re-aggravates, what if I get a goose egg because he re-aggravates, you at least want some real ceiling on the other side. We just don't have that right now with Tet McMillan, at least in my eyes. Yes, it's a plus matchup against New Orleans. To me, this is just going to be a Rico Dowdle 30 carry, just going bananas type of game. So I'm fading Tet McMillan rather where I can. Like I said, I'd play Alec Pierce, I'd play Tez Johnson, I'd play Juwan Jennings over Tet McMillan today. Maybe I'm going to look like a fool. That's definitely the boldest, most lower than ECR I am on a player this week, and usually that does not work out quite well. But I just don't see it. If I'm going to absorb that risk, I want there to be a true ceiling. Tet McMillan's a fine floor play. It would seem like a nice wide receiver 3 that we keep ranking as a mid-range wide receiver 2 just because he looks so good. Just because he looks so good doesn't mean that the environment's going to foster true wide receiver 2 production, though. Certainly give me a guy like Jordan Addison, in that sense. But let me know if you do have Tet McMillan questions. Clearly, I am a little bit lower on him, though. Puka Nacua off the injury report in your lineups. That's a no-brainer. Garrett Wilson, we got asked about earlier. Sounds like he is going to be playing, practiced in full on Friday, and said to reporters, I'm going to be in. And the latest from Adam Schefter was they expect him to be in. Definitely a pass funnel defense for Cleveland, one of the best run Ds in the league. Mediocre pass D, but certainly that's the way to get your points against them. So I have Garrett Wilson right back into my top 12 receivers like he's been for the vast majority of this season. We have just a couple other wide receiver notes, but a very generous super chat from my man, Virginia Man. Thank you so much. Very kind of you, that $5 super chat. Diggs, Flowers, or White Flex Standard League. Love the show, man. Thank you so much for your kind words. And again, your support of the show really does go such a long way. Thank you, sir. I would definitely take White out of this one. I know in a standard league that you really want the touchdown upside. That's the most important thing. I guess White has that, but this Pats run D is no joke. No 50-yard rushers allowed all season. And I don't think Rashard White, who's been extremely underwhelming over these last few weeks as the fill-in starter, most of his career, he gets volume and ultimately kind of gets there in fantasy because of it, and certainly he can catch passes. But this is a very, very tough run defense. So I only have him down at running back 27. I worry about Sean Tucker vulturing the goal line snaps. And just in a standard league, 4.4, 6.1 these last couple of weeks, not moving the needle much for me there, Virginia Man. So I would be pivoting over to one of the wide receivers. This does get tricky because both these guys are boosted by PPR. Diggs had a stretch run where he did have a couple touchdowns. He had a touchdown last week as well. I think I prefer in a standard league, I do think Diggs has a higher ceiling just because I like that game environment. I do like the Minnesota-Baltimore game environment in a dome as well. But I heard the stat. It was the Angles and Upsides podcast. A very, very solid one with Pat Crane and Rich Rebar, two of the better analysis in the game. They go very, very deep, very, very, coverage schemes and EPA allowed stuff that just, fascinating stuff. And it sounds like that the Vikings double team number one wide receivers at a very high clip. And that's what happened to Flowers last week. And they took him out of the game, not the Vikings, but the last opponent that they played, the Dolphins. Guy took Flowers out that way. But then also the other stat they gave is against the blitz, Flowers does really well. Flores, of course, on the Vikings, blitzes a ton, and Lamar in zone coverage and against blitzes has been just lights out. So boiling it all down, I feel like just Diggs has the better bet. No Kayshon Boutte. I know they play different roles, but it's just one of those things where his route share, that's one of the more frustrating parts of Diggs is like 60, 70% route share, whereas your Boutte on the field for every snap. You imagine that they bump up the roll a little bit here for Diggs. Touchdown in back-to-back games. That's what you got to prioritize here. In standard leagues, I think he makes it 3 games in a row with a touchdown. Tampa Bay, a fine matchup for wide receivers. Right there in the middle of the pack, if I'm not mistaken. Let me just kind of pull up those last notes here. Because Vikings, 24th in terms of points allowed. They've been tough, and certainly against number one wide receivers. They've been quite tough, whereas Tampa – 20th, so they're close. It's not like a slam dunk matchup. But again, I think this will be a back and forth passing attack game with both the Pats and Bucks run D being quite solid. So I'm going to go with Diggs in a standard league. I have Flowers higher in half and full PPR just because I think the reception upside is higher with Flowers. Both very close, though, within 2 to 3 spots of each other. And when you prioritize those touchdowns in a standard league, I'm going to go with Diggs on that one. Thank you again so much for the super chat there, Virginia man. Very kind, very generous of you. And a free way to help your boy out is that thumbs up button, guys. Please consider hitting that if you enjoy what you're hearing. The heart button on Twitter, thumbs up on YouTube, the likes, the shares, the retweets. It really does help us get out to more people. Last couple notes here we just mentioned Kayshon Boutte will be out, so Demario Douglas becomes a nice sleeper. Diggs gets a bit of a bump up. Both good plays today. We do have, for the Seahawks, new receiver Rashid Shaheed might need to play extensively in Week 10 because Torrey Horton's doubtful. Cooper Kupp is questionable. It sounds like Kupp is trending towards in, but still is going to be a true game time call from the latest reports that I read this morning. So ultimately, Shaheed, who's familiar with Kubiak, who thrived with Kubiak, I like him. I think he's a very interesting play. I'd rather have him on my bench, let him get acclimated with Sammy Darnold. It's tough to just come right in and in 4 days, boom, have chemistry with your quarterback. But Shaheed is a baller, and he certainly, it's not without the realm of possibility that this guy just goes out and does his deep threat thing. He was killing it at the beginning of last year with Clint Kubiak, who clearly sought him back out and brought him over there. So I like Shaheed. I'd rather have Tez Johnson. I'd rather have Alec Pierce, for example, some of the bigger sleepers of the week. I'd probably, though, play Shaheed over like a Parker Washington, even though Brian Thomas, the next note we have here, is going to be out, is going to miss Week 10 against the Texans. Parker Washington in that invaluable Liam Cohen slot role should be a decent sleeper. But ultimately, I'd rather have the explosive upside of a guy like Rashid Shaheed in my lineup. 2 more super chats coming in. Alpha Gator USA, thank you so much for your support of the show. Etienne or Rashard White, and Loveland or Fannin. I'm going to go with Etienne over White, as we keep mentioning. That run defense of the Pats is just elite. No 50-yard rushers allowed. Fewest points allowed to running backs in the league. And Rashad White can catch the ball, so it's not – I mean, you're almost exclusively playing him anyways for his pass-catching ability. So maybe he racks up a few of those in PPR and gets there. But I'd rather Etienne. Yeah, the Texans, a tougher matchup in general, one of the better run Ds in the league. But it's not the Patriots. Again, the down there in the fewest points allowed here. The Texans right in the middle, 20th in terms of points allowed. 2 running backs in a very, very good pass defense. So they're a little bit more of a run funnel. Etienne, fresh off, 18, 20-something carries last week. The volume has been there. I do think eventually we're going to start to see Bashal Tutin take more and more and more of this backfield over, kind of like the Bucky and Rashad White situation last year with Liam Cohen. But for right now, they clearly trust Etienne the most. So despite that tougher matchup, I do like Etienne to keep getting that volume. 22 carries, last week, and didn't do amazing with it, 3.8 yards a pop, but ultimately running back 13 for full PPR. Let me just quickly filter away from half PPR. Running back 12 because of 5 targets, 5 catches. So you're only playing White for the pass catching upside anyways, but we're getting that from Etienne in many of these weeks. 5-3, 5-4 targets across his last 4. I'm going to go with Etienne in this one. In terms of Loveland or Fannin, I'm going to go with Loveland. It's tricky because Fannin looked so good his last game out there, but ultimately he had a hamstring injury, similar to like the Tetairoa McMillan thing. It's just when you have these guys that are a little banged up coming into the games, it makes it a bit riskier that something flares up, they end up sitting, and you take the zero risk. And that tight end, I mean, it is nice to see 8 targets, 6 catches, 62 yards of the score. Last week, tight end 5. Really solid performance for Harold Fannin before the bye week. But the fact that he still was questionable and truly questionable entering this week, despite having that extra week off, it worries me a bit about what could happen if something flares up. And meanwhile, you got Loveland just exploding for over 25 fantasy points. Yes, Kmet was out for the vast majority of that. Yes, Kmet's back this week. But I trust Ben Johnson. We saw it with Laporta as a rookie. Once the toothpaste is out of the tube, he doesn't usually put it back. You kind of see what you have in Loveland, so explosive down the field, so explosive with the ball in his hands. Giants are weirdly good against tight ends, which has me just a little hesitant on this one. But I'm going to go Loveland and hope that Ben Johnson just keeps riding this guy that really showed up last week. Luis Perez, thank you again so much for the super chat there, Alpha Gator USA. And thank you, Luis, your second super chat of the day. So greatly appreciate it. Let me let your boy get a quick water, and I'll be right there with you. And this is, Lewis, definitely a fear of mine, is the pressure of Tampa Bay. But I also think Josh McDaniels, he's done a great job of trying to mask that with the quick strikes, the screen game. I think we can neutralize it in a way. And I know, Myles Garrett just took, Will Campbell to the tool shed and just bent him over his knee. That wasn't fun to watch. But as a whole, Campbell's been quite solid. He's been just as good as advertised, in my opinion. I don't have the exact PFF grades to back it up, but just eyeball test wise, I feel like our line it's significantly. I mean, you saw it last year. You couldn't even count to 3, and you knew Drake May would be sacked. He's had his time to throw. Drake May's been so aware in the pocket, his ability to step up. This is kind of when May's at his best, when he's got a little bit of a zest on him. He's got to roll out in the pocket or make plays with his legs. So I don't know if you're just like a general Pats fan. Are you worried about this game and what happens? Sure, this is a great team, a great defense, and obviously an explosive offense when they're all clicking. This is going to be our best test of the season, and I can't wait as a Pats fan to see, can we rise to the occasion on the road? One of the big things I am worried about is that Tampa Bay front and the pressure that they can generate. Absolutely. But I'm not going to use the Saints getting destroyed by this defense as oh, no, we got to run. I think our line is significantly better than New Orleans at this point. And I just think Drake May is obviously, 10 classes, a million classes above Tyler Shuck. So, I think it's going to be certainly a talking point, but I trust Josh McDaniels to really scheme it up, as he has all year. I've really been impressed with McDaniels and his ability to work with May and his ability to not let the line become a huge liability because of how he schemes things. So, Lewis, am I worried? Yes. Do I think it's going to be our undoing today? I think it's going to be an awesome game. Let's go Pats, baby. I'm betting on the Pats myself. Andrew Myers, Mac Jones, or J.J. McCarthy in a full PPR. I don't believe the PPR will do much for your quarterback scoring, but thanks for clarifying, good sir. I would lean – this is a tough one. I kind of like going J.J. in the Dome against Baltimore. We just talked about how this defense has gotten significantly stiffer in the last couple games since getting healthy. Even still, in the Dome against Minnesota – we just saw Minnesota coming off a hot win against the Lions. Baltimore still a top 10 matchup for QBs. Let me just see what the last couple quarterbacks did again. Well, they faced Tua, so I'm not judging them there. Caleb Williams is trash. Stafford, they did hold to just 9 points. So it is a little worrisome, 9, 12, and 9 to the last 3 quarterbacks they faced since welcoming some people back. And before that, you had Stroud going 28, Mahomes going 27, and Josh Allen had 38. Oh, man, it is a tricky one. But I'm going to go with J.J. McCarthy. I thought he looked really solid. I like that he's using the legs a bit. And Mac Jones, that game is fun too. Two good game environments, in my opinion. But J.J. McCarthy walking right back into a quarterback 13, 20-point day, looking just significantly better than he looked earlier, more confident, more composed. It is tough because Mac has looked very, very solid. His first game against the Rams, quarterback 10, 22 fantasy points, and he was banged up during that game, threw 342 yards and 2 touchdowns. But it's one of those things where Mac Jones, the first 4 starts, 279, 284, 342, 347. And then since then, 152, 193, 235, couple back-to-back 2-touchdown days. But I'm going to go McCarthy. That game just feels like eruption upside to me. So I'm going to go with him. Good question, good option, same tier, a couple spots within each other. I'm going J.J. McCarthy. I have him just a little bit higher in the rankings there. Thank you so much, Andrew, again, for the super chat. Just to wrap up, I believe we covered all the receiver news other than we hit Shaheed. Godwin's going to be out. We've already talked about Tez Johnson, how I love him this week as a sleeper. I like him even more than Alec Pierce, more than Darius Slade, some of these other popular names, more than Demario Douglas. If I was ranking those sleeper receivers, I'd probably go the exact order I just presented them. Tez, then Alec Pierce, then Darius Slayton, and then Demario Douglas. We do have Matthew Golden pushing to play, but still hasn't practiced this week. You don't need to use him anyways. It's more so, what does this do for Christian Watson if he's out? Romeo Doubs. If those routes can consolidate, no Tucker Kraft now, probably going to need points against the Eagles. I think both Watson and Romeo Doubs could be in play. De'Ami Brown will be back. We mentioned BTJ will be out. Ricky Pearsall, 6th straight game out with this mysterious knee injury. I've seen him getting cut, and I don't know that I'm sprinting to pick this guy up at this point. And then Isaiah Bond will be out for the Browns. Cedric Tillman will be welcomed back. And remember, he had some massive games. Not sure that upside is there now that Flacco's gone. So in deep leagues, though, Cedric Tillman, one of those guys to maybe stash, see how he does. Certainly not starting him this week, but Dylan Gabriel, I don't trust him too much, but maybe Shador takes over. Maybe Tillman ends up being his boy. We saw huge games, like I said, last year, top 3 wide receiver performances out of Tillman before. Not a bad bench stash if you have the space. And then the last tight end notes, we talked already about Harold Fannin. He's questionable, but is going to play today. Coming off that 8 target, 6 catch, 60-yard touchdown, top 5 performance. He's valuable, but the hamstring potential flare-up, the Njoku committee, certainly not a must-play for Harold Fannin. And then A.J. Barner, questionable, the last nugget I have here, which if he is out, Arroyo would go significantly higher. He's coming off his first touchdown as a professional. I was a big Arroyo fan coming into the year, love the athleticism out of Miami. I think there's a ton of upside to him, and certainly if A.J. Barner, who's been a touchdown hog this year, solid player. Ultimately, if he's out, though, Arroyo would have a phenomenal ceiling today against the Cardinals. And that wraps up all the news that I had. Wolfpack, if you guys see anything that I didn't cover that you think I need to hit, please do hit it in the comments. Reminder to any point, hit that like button if you enjoy what you're hearing. It would be so greatly appreciated. The thumbs up on YouTube, the heart button on Twitter, likes, the shares, the retweets. That does still greatly help us out so much. And of course, with 2,000 of you over here live, not even at the halfway point, maybe we do hit that record. We've hit. And thank you again to the 9 super chats that have been out there. Last call too for rotostreetjournal.com, where these rankings will be live and updated at about 9:20. I'm going to push through an update ahead of kickoff. But let's get on to the mailbag, to all of your questions. Let it rip, Wolfpack. I'm going to just take a quick water. As Facundo asks, Loveland or Tet McMillan? I'm going to roll. I'm going to go Loveland here. Like I said, I am worried about the Tet injury. I am worried about Komet coming back for Loveland too, but ultimately think that they're too smart to put him back in the bottle. I think Loveland has another score today. And yeah, I'm going to bench Tet with his hamstring concern. I know he's active. It's just a minor flare-up. If it gets worse and he ends up sitting, though, I'd be pretty upset for Kondo. Will Massey, good to see you, good sir. Who do I flex, Wolf? Monangai, Adunze, or Marks? I'm going to limit this one down to Monangai versus Adunze. Obviously, that goose egg last week for Adunze in a week where they scored 47 points is incredibly frustrating. But you got the squeaky wheel narrative. You got the dad talking smack. You got a top 3 matchup for wide receivers as well. The coverage I was reading is something that Odunze typically smashes. I'm going to go with Odunze slightly over Monangai just because Swift has been playing so well too. He'll be back, and it's all hot hand, they said. Swift will probably get the start, and then if he just looks phenomenal, like he probably will, I do think Monangai still could get there, but I lean Odunze. He's the one that has the true 30-point eruption upside now that this backfield's back to a committee, and I think you'd be kicking yourself if he was on your bench for there. I know Lily Barracles, certainly not the best move there, starting Harvey, something that I recommended quite highly on the Thursday show. I've been pretty good with my Thursday guys. That one, unfortunately, was not a good call at all. So my apologies to Lily, anybody else out there that ended up starting RJ Harvey. And certainly if my push was the one that pushed you over, it was not the right call at all. That 3-game touchdown streak came to an end and definitely leaves a gaping hole in fantasy lineups. But hey, Sunday's here. We got to dust off the chin strap, dust off the face, snap the chin strap back on, and get back to business. Get your hand back in the dirt. Apex, good morning and happy Sunday, everyone. Need help on my last flex spot between Aaron Jones or DJ Moore. I got to go DJ Moore there, Apex. I know it's been so boom or bust, mostly busts throughout the year, but coming off his season high last week, you got the Giants on the other side where they are just a top 3 matchup for wide receivers. Aaron Jones, it looks on paper like a great matchup, but like I said, this Ravens defense has really started to tighten up here. I still like Aaron Jones today, but I like DJ Moore quite a bit more. I think the ceiling is just higher there, Apex. And we got Andrews, Otten, or Loveland at tight end. I like Loveland there. I'm worried that, because, again, the Giants are good against this position. Kmet's back. It could just be that 1 week, wow, 30 points, and what happened? He just disappears again. We've seen that many times. But I think I'm leaning Loveland here. The upside coming off that. I know it was like 26 fantasy points. I just want to see what the exact stat line was. It was insane what this guy just did. And it's one of those things I just trust Ben Johnson to keep riding it out. Yeah, 6 catch, 7 target, 118-yard, 2 touchdown day. Unbelievable performance there from Loveland. How do you go backwards in there? 26.8 half PPR, tight end 2 of the week. I'm gonna stick it out with Loveland despite Otten be a little safer. Andrews, though, yeah, he had the 2 touchdowns, but that's the only catches he had. More routes, more targets, more catches for likely. Andrews, you guys know my opinion on him at this point, fat and useless. He does pop up every now and again, but when he doesn't score, he's like the worst David Montgomery of tight ends type of thing. So I like Loveland there, going for the upside, going for the home run swing. We did have a couple super chats here. Thank you so much, Lamont, for your super chat. Let's dive in for you. For PPR, flex, Jordan Addison or Dalton Kincaid. Oh, man, 2 of my favorite plays this week. I don't know that you can go wrong. I talked about liking that game environment for the Vikings, especially as a passing attack in the dome there against the Ravens, chasing points or at least in a neutral script. I do really like Addison. I've always been such an Addison truther. We have yet to see a really solid game. He's only played 1 game, I believe, with J.J. McCarthy, and it didn't go so hot. 2 catches, 48 yards. Did get the rush attempt for 16 yards as well. So, I mean, he's still, like, even in a game that just, like, wasn't great for him, still kind of got there. Not got there, but 7 points. That's his low of the year by a mile. He's at 10 or more half PPR. We're doing full PPR, so let me just pull up full PPR stats for you. His season low is 8. Other than that, 11, 15, 15, 21. I believe he's averaging more points per game than Justin Jefferson on the year. So I am leaning him mostly. Well, I mean, Kincaid's very intriguing because Miami's a phenomenal spot for tight ends for really any position. They've been a great matchup. Let me see. Tight end, Miami, 5th most points allowed to the position. Kincaid did have 15 against them the last time out as well. In terms and that was half PPR, so even more in full PPR. Coming off as well, 6 catch, 100-yard touchdown day, tight end 3. Oh, man. This is a good one. I think I'm going Kincaid. I'm high on Kincaid on DraftKings. I'm playing him a bunch. Big fan of him coming off this massive game. Big fan of the matchup. I'm going to go with Kincaid in this one. I love Addison, though. Really tough call, Lamont. I enjoy them both. But yeah, I'm going to go Kincaid and just hope they just don't bleed the clock. The one thing, though, with this is like, if they can just run James Cook, which they can and they will. If last game Kincaid against them had 15, but Miami played him tough. He was pushing back. And so ultimately they needed some good Kincaid action there. But there's a definite world where the Bills just, track meet, sprint, and destroy this team. I'm gonna stick it with Kincaid, coming off a 22-point day, 17 in full PPR the last time he faced him. But there's a lower floor, admittedly, with him. But I'm going Kincaid. Quincy Davis, thank you so much for the super chat. We need 3 of Henderson, Monangai, Swift, or Garrett Wilson. Oh man, so I have Henderson the lowest rated out of all these guys. It is tricky to have both Bears guys in at the same time, Quincy, but this is the type of matchup where the Giants are just so bad against the run that you can get by on starting 2 guys against them. I think I might just monopolize the backfield points of the Bears and let them rip against the Giants. Like, yeah, 3rd most points allowed to backs. And they've had, Christian McCaffrey 31, Brian Robinson 11, Saquon 31, Tank Bigsby 10 the last couple of weeks there for running backs. It's abysmal. They are very, very bad run D. I think this is a week where you can get by starting both of them. Meanwhile, you got Henderson facing a very tough run D for the Tampa Bay Bucks. And I don't want to miss his coming out party, but I just don't think this is the environment for it. But maybe there won't even be one. Sadly, as a Pats fan, I wish that he was showing that explosiveness we saw in the preseason. We just haven't really seen it. We haven't seen him used out in space much. His pass catching is supposed to be elite, but just hasn't been leaned on. And then Terrell Jennings, the goal line vulture there. I'm going to go both Bears backs. I'm going to go Garrett Wilson back this week in a pass funnel matchup against Cleveland. I can lean upon him. So I'm benching Hendy there, and I'm starting both Bears running backs. If you did want to bench a Bears running back, you didn't want to double down, I think Monangai is the one I bench. I prefer Swift probably. But I think this is one where I'm going Swift, Monangai, and Garrett Wilson there, Quincy. We got Ignacio Burnell. Need help. Chris Olave, Rashid Shaheed, or Parker Washington at the flex. And thank you so much, Ignacio, for your generous $5 super chat here. It's not sexy, but Olave is getting so many targets, and now you remove Rashid Shaheed, who's been also getting 9 to 10 targets a week in the Saints offense that's running a ton of plays like they always do. Kellen Moore, that's kind of his calling card, is run plays, fast pace, throwing a lot. Olave's getting a ton of those easy layup slot looks that we've seen from like Keenan Allen, from Devonta Smith a lot last year. So I like going to Olave. Again, I know the counting stats haven't been often there. Last week was a true dud with 4 targets, 3 catches, 57 yards. From Tyler Shuck, his first start with him did not go so hot. I would certainly feel better about Olave if we had Spencer Rattler back. It tells you how dire the situation is, that we're sitting here, Ignacio, hoping for Spencer Rattler. Oh God. But ultimately, it is tough to project. Like, okay, we saw 12, 7, 10, 11 targets. That was all from Rattler. Only 4 last week from Shuck. But who else? Is Juwan Johnson going to be in the target hog? I think they're going to be. That's the one thing with the Saints, is they're going to be trailing a lot. And Shuck, yes, he didn't throw it a ton to Olave, but he looked serviceable. The arm looked live. So we get back into that 12 to 10, 10, 12 targets. Wide receiver 18, 5, 24, then 44. But you're looking at Washington, who gets Houston, tough matchup. Rashid Shaheed joining the new team, which I think with Kubiak, he will eventually light it up, but that does still worry me, transitioning over there. So I'm going to go with Olave and just ride that volume. I have quite a few spots above these wide receivers. And if he bombs this week with Shuck again, then yeah, maybe we readjust and start putting him down to 30s, 40s. But for this week, he's a top 25 receiver for me. I'm chasing the volume. I'm going to ride it out there, Ignacio. And thank you so much, Hollywood French Bulls, for your $5 super chat. Very kind, very generous of you, sir. Need a kicker off waivers that will put up 12 to 15 points. Oh, boy. We got Loop, Santos, Borgelis, Fitzgerald, Reichert, or Ryland, who I'm really liking. I do like Ryland, but facing the Seahawks, what if they get track meted like the last weekend we saw with the Commanders on Sunday Night Football? Wouldn't stun me if the Seahawks just absolutely blow the doors off this defense. So I'm gonna go Ryland. Nah, I think that's too tough, too big of a blowout risk, and suddenly he's toast. I think I like Santos. It's either Santos or Loop for me as the kicker play from here. Santos definitely doesn't have that big leg to get you like a true explosion, but the offense is consistently churning out those points. Both those guys fall in my top 7. Loop, you get the dome. I'm biased because I want Lamar to put up points, but if they do get stopped, you're gonna get a big Loop day. I like Santos though. I'm gonna go Cairo Santos against the Giants. They should have no problem moving the ball all day. And he's been pretty solid in terms of you're looking for like 12 to 15, the double-digit points. If I'm not mistaken, he's hit that 19, 11, and 11 his last 3 games. Yeah, so he's been pretty solid. Maybe not 12 to 15, but still pretty solid there. Whereas Loop, once you have the explosive Lamar back, 4 touchdowns, but that just ends up being 4 points for him. I'm gonna go with Cairo Santos. I think that's the best bet for you there, Mr. French Bulldogs, French Bulls. We got Crona saying snow and wind. Welcome to the winter, baby. We're officially in the snow season. So that's the Giants game, right? Giants-Bears game. I still probably go Caleb, though. Yes, he's been an absolute merchant on bad matchups, and it's been the Bengals and the Cowboys, literally the 2 best possible matchups you could ask for. And then otherwise, he's been quite mediocre. 38 against the Bengals and 29 against the Cowboys. Otherwise, only one other top 10 performance on the year. So I get it. It's questionable, but the Giants are right there in terms of easy matchups. I'd have to see Ken Roth fantasy weather. I believe it's Ken Roth. Let me just the Kevin Roth. So let me just quickly pull up because I have not done a ton of weather research. That one, honestly, I won't lie, was not. Some snow in Chicago ahead of the Bears game. The snow-rain mix will be clear by kickoff. Wind will persist around 20 mile per hour, gusts around 30. So that does hurt. And then ultimately, though the over-under is still 48.5, there's still points to be had. I mean, I do like Darnold with this new weaponry, but the Cardinals defense has been sneaky good. I have Caleb at QB10. I have Darnold QB14. I think Darnold certainly is safer, Krana, if you're let's say you're 65. Let's say your opponent played RJ Harvey, and now you just need like a more guaranteed 15 to 20. I do think Darnold's definitely the better bet for that, but I'm going to go with Caleb. The matchup's still there. It's an orange weather game, but precipitation should be done by the game. The winds are definitely an issue for longer throws, but that's not really where they've been making their bread and butter anyways. It's been more like DJ Moore, go do something with you, roam. Yeah, I'm going to stick to I'm bumping down the passing slate. Yeah, I'm going to have to make some adjustments here because it's not like a nothing game. So I'm going to take Goff over Caleb. I might even take Stafford, but I'm not going to downgrade him too much. I still like that offense to be able to move the ball. So I'm going to go Caleb there. Krana Shop. All right, Jal, 8210. Flex full PPR. Parker Washington, Darius Slayton, Harold Fannin. I like in a full PPR, probably Parker Washington, that high volume slot role. I know Jacoby Myers, similar type of setup, skill set, but first game with the team. I like Slayton more in a half PPR, I think, for the big play upside, but we're talking 10 and 9 targets for Parker Washington. And that was with BTJ on the field for some of the game, and now he's removed. It's a tough Houston matchup, but against the slot, at least a little bit, he should be able to avoid Stingley in that real shutdown corner. So I like Parker Washington in a full PPR. Fannin makes me a little nervous with that hamstring. Truly questionable entering the day. Yes, he's going to be active, but if it flares up, you take the 0 jaw. That would be brutal. So I'm going to go with Parker Washington there. Thank you so much for the super chat. And my man Mark, thank you so much. Great to see you, Gonzo. Been a minute, brother. Tough to take it easy on the Giants. I will say something positive about the Giants. I will say I love Jackson Dart. I think you guys have your franchise quarterback. That's the most important thing to have locked down. He looks like a stud. So, he's as bad as it's been in terms of blowing games and the defense sucks. There's just not enough talent around him yet, but you have your guy. That's the hardest thing to do is find your guy at quarterback. Get yourself a first-round lineman in the top 5 picks. Sign another wideout to complement Neighbors, and then you got Neighbors, Wandale solid in the slot. You got your Scatterbo coming back. I think that the Giants are certainly on the up and up in terms of fantasy. Definitely a spot we want to target. Their opposition, though, because that defense is pathetic. We got to start 2 with a puke face. Let's dive in. Musgrave, Theo Johnson, Calvin Austin, Muth, or Corum. I can see why the throw-up is coming out here. Gun to my head, Mark, I'm going to go Theo and Musgrave. I think your boy Theo's been very solid in the red zone. He is a bit of a touchdown or bust option, but more often than not, he's been hitting the touchdown. And so I like that one, especially against Chicago too. Now, granted, I'm just going to double check Chicago against tight ends and make sure, because there's a couple of these teams that are like really bad defense, the Giants being one of them, that's like randomly good against the tight end. Because like the Giants against tight ends are like 21st, but top 3 matchup for everybody else. And in terms of their opponent, the Bears, top 12 matchup for tight ends. So yeah, no, nothing we're fading, nothing we're worried about. And then Musgrave against the Eagles are a good defense against the tight end. Bottom 3 matchup for the position. I just think it's such an important role in this offense. And as good as Kraft is, you're not getting. I've always been a Kraft over Musgrave guy. Even when they were drafted and everybody wanted Musgrave, I talked about how Kraft was a dog in the blocking game, and he's just way more impressed me than I expected it as a receiver after the catch. He's been such a monster. Musgrave's not that, but he is a more athletic guy. He's better deep threat, and they're going to need weapons at this point with Kraft banged up, with Golden potentially out. It might be one of those rare situations where you actually get like an 80% route guy in this offense that's going to need points. I never go Calvin Austin. Muth is in that 4 tight end rotation. Corum looked good last week, but that's a handcuff play, really. Like, any given week, they might just feed Kyron 30 times, certainly in a tight game against San Fran, divisional opponent. I'm going to go Musgrave and Theo Johnson. It's not pretty there, Mark, but that's where I'm leaning. Just the better bets to be on the field all day, just get some volume thrown their way, and you hope they just saunter into the end zone at some point. My man, Levi C. What's going on, Levi? Great to see you, brother. Thank you so much for your consistent support of the show. You're a legend, Levi. What's going on? 1 running back, 1 flex spot to fill PPR, and then that 5-point bonus. That's right, with the 40-plus yard plays. That's a crazy bonus, by the way. Absolutely insane. We need 2 of Henderson, Monangai, and Romeo Doubs. I think Monangai is my favorite as we continue to talk about. Sure, Swift is back. Hot hand approach. Both these guys can get it done against this run D. It's that abysmal. Whereas Henderson gets that tough matchup against Tampa Bay. And just like I was raving, at least mildly interested in Musgrave, I actually really do like Romeo Doubs as a clear-cut number 1 wide receiver. We've seen him have these 3 touchdown blow-ups, and they really have no one else, especially if Golden gets ruled out. Yeah, everybody else, Wicks is banged up. It could be very, very consolidated. He's already a high route, high target guy in this offense. So I'm going to lean Doubs. Henderson could theoretically have that big play upside to get you that 40 yard bonus if he hits that big play, but I just don't think so against Tampa Bay, a good run D. So I'm going to bench Henderson of this group. Just annoyed that Jennings is going to work in the red zone, eat Henderson, nibble the cheese in a tough matchup already. The Pats are just so reluctant to turn the keys over to this guy, and there must be a reason at this point. So I'm going to go Monangai, and I'm going to go Romeo Doubs for you, Levi C., to fill out those spots. Best of luck, good sir. Thank you again so much for the support. 17 super chats. You guys are so kind, so generous, so greatly appreciated. Thank you there. And if you want to help your boy out, we're over 3,000 live. Love to see it. So greatly appreciate it, guys. If you hit that thumbs up button on YouTube, the heart button on Twitter, wherever you're watching from, it really does help us grow and get out to more people. We're just over the first hour of the day, and we will be going live up till 10 o'clock. I know the game kicks off at 9:30. So if you have those questions, you got to get the super chat and cut the line. I totally understand it. Like my man, Coach Zeke, 9:30. This is exactly how you get your in. Thank you so much, Coach Zeke, for your support. We'll continue to mow through that mailbag, though. Going to get to all of those questions. But a free way to help your boy out is that thumbs up. And again, these rankings are live at rotostreetjournal.com. I'll be pushing through an update in about 15 minutes to reflect any changes ahead of the London game. But we need to start too. Half PPR, Monangai, Marks, Downs. ATL is solid versus receivers. They are a very good pass defense, but certainly better against the outside than the slot. So Downs does have a little juice. Monangai is my favorite, no doubt about it, Coach Zeke. And I do think I'm going to go Marks over Downs. That does get tough. It's half PPR, though. I think Marks, if this game remains as tight as I think so, it will against the Jags, a tough divisional contest. I think Marks can get back to that top 20 running back or so we saw in back-to-back games before last week's downturn. Because when the game script is not in his favor, they do turn to Chubb. When they're up, they like to bleed the clock. But Marks otherwise will be solid. Monangai is the easy one for me because the Giants, again, are that abysmal. But Marks versus Downs, that's tough. I'm going to go – I mean, Atlanta is good against wide receivers, but they're not like – it's not. Let's dive into this one a little bit. So we got Indianapolis giving up. I gotta just get over to wide receivers in my grid here. Wide receivers, we're going to Atlanta. 26th. So yeah, 7th fewest points allowed to the position. We did see Diggs and Douglas 18-11 the week before. Waddle and Washington 18-11. Solid trend there. And Downs has been quite solid. The thing is, though, you have Alec Pierce getting 13 targets last week and kind of clearly becoming the guy. So we got, let's see here, Downs, 9 targets, 6 catches. So he had 9 targets himself, though. But that was a game script that was just, pretty wild. We haven't seen them trail like that. This game does project to be a little bit tighter, though. And Downs 13, 11, 12. Ceiling not great there, but very solid floor. I'm going to go Monangai and Downs here. I think he keeps it rolling. It is a good pass D, but teams have been getting him, especially out of the slot where Downs is going to do most of his work. I like Downs. I'm going to go Monangai and Downs for you, Coach Zeke. Let me know what you end up deciding, but best of luck, my man, King Zeke over there. And then Herbert versus May. Sorry, I just saw that last part of the question. I think gun to my head, I love these. They're both top 4 quarterbacks for me. I wish it was a 2-quarterback league. And so I did hear some stats about Herbert, how he carves up zone, how Tomlin's Steelers run zone at the highest rate. I think he's in for a great play, but then I also heard and know for the Patriots, their run D is great. The Bucs run D is very solid as well. 2 pass funnel defenses going back and forth. Something tells me that game has some fireworks, and I like May in a game where he's actually getting pushed. I can't wait to see what he does. So I'm going to go with Drake May playing at that MVP level. It's my quarterback 3 and 4. Very, very close. But I do have May at 3. I have Herbert at 4. Phenomenal options. But I'm going to wrap that question up with Monangai, Downs, and then May for you, Coach Zeke. Thank you again so much. Giuseppe Russo, thank you so much for your support here. Kamani Vidal or Wandale, half PPR. So we got this one. It was Wandale versus Brees, but it was full PPR. Half does take a solid chunk out of it. Those full points go such a long way for Wandale, who's most likely not scoring, but is going to probably rack up the catches. I'm off the Vidal train, though, unless the matchup is totally juicy, and the Steelers is the opposite of juicy. If I'm not mistaken, it's a bottom 5 matchup. I know they just handled Jonathan Taylor quite well. Let me pull up the grid here. Steelers, the 7th fewest points allowed to running backs, 6.7 to Taylor, 12 to Jacobs, 11 to Chase Brown, 3 to Judkins, 8 to Jordan Mason. It's not great. Like their season high, they gave up 18 to Kenneth Walker way back in week 2. And they've been really getting stiffer and stiffer against the run. Definitely a pass funnel defense. And I like Wandale. You're just such a guaranteed bet. I know you're a Giants fan, right, Giuseppe? So, the number 1 for Jackson Dart, whether he should be or not, is a different debate. He kind of clearly is 12 targets, 4 targets and 11 targets. And when we're talking half PPR, what's the output been? Standard, it's pathetic, but 17, 12, 6, and 9. I just think that's a nice, safe floor these last few weeks. I don't think you're going to hit that 17 ceiling like we saw against Philadelphia, but it exists in Chicago. Down 2 of their top secondary members already was a bad secondary too. I like Wan'Dale there. I do. So give me Wan'Dale over Vidal. Would you start Daniel Jones or Matthew Stafford for IW37 Able? I would go with, I believe, Daniel Jones. I think that game, it does have some back and forth upside. Penix does like to sling it. And Daniel Jones, even on like his worst game of the year last year, he ended up putting up 19 fantasy points, 17.1 actually, but still, 23, 22, 23, 17. He really only has a couple duds on the year. He's been in the top 12 and well over 70% of his games. I love that offense. It's just Shane Steichen, coach of the year, in my opinion, really revitalizing that career of Daniel Jones. I mean, Stafford, don't get me wrong, he's cooking too. He's my quarterback 11. Daniel Jones, my quarterback 9. And especially lately with Stafford, 27, 25, 9, 27, 26. Oh, man. And then you get San Fran, a game where they're going to need points. I don't know. He is playing at an MVP level, Stafford, huh? 3, 1, 5, 4 touchdowns in his last 5 games. That is a very, very close one. His last game against San Fran, he had 25, was the quarterback 8. I think I might flip these guys, just thinking it through, who I actually really like more. I think it's Stafford. And you got the Berlin weird stuff. What if Daniel Jones didn't look good? So what if he is starting to crumble? I don't think he is, but what if? Where's Stafford making that MVP campaign case? Huge divisional game today. I'm bumping Stafford ahead of Daniel Jones. That's a tough one, but I'm ultimately going to change the rankings on this one. Joseph asking Olave, Warren, or Tet. I think I'm going to go, and I don't know which Warren it is, Joseph, whether it's Ty Warren or Jalen Warren. I think either way, I'm going to go with the Warren for you. Olave, first game with Shuck does not look great. 3 catches, 4 targets, not great. But Shaheed now shipped out of town, should get a ton of volume. Panthers not a great matchup for wide receivers, though. Tet, I said at the jump of the show, don't want to deal with that hamstring if I don't have to. I only like to play these injured players that, especially late week injuries, if their ceiling is insane, then I can stomach it. But Tet just only 1 game with a touchdown so far in his career, only 2 games within the top 12 wide receivers, most outside the top 30. He looks great, passes the eyeball test, just not an environment that's great for receivers. It's far more of a running back friendly offense. So I like whatever Warren it is, whether it's the running back Warren, who's clearly monopolizing the touches there for the Steelers, getting the red zone looks, getting a lot of touchdowns there, or Ty Warren, who's just an absolute beast at tight end in a solid spot here. Good pass defense for the Falcons, but I don't trust Tet, and I don't love Tyler Shuck. So whatever Warren you have, Joseph, I'm probably going to trust them. Game Machine, thank you so much for your super chat. Monangai worth starting as a running back today? Absolutely. Already, we've had a bunch of questions on Monangai, but just to reemphasize the main points here, the Giants are abysmal. 3rd most points allowed to running backs, but even worse than that metric suggests. DVOA, they're the worst team in the league. Success rate for running backs, giving up the highest success rate for running backs in the league. Swift is back, but Ben Johnson calls it a hot hand approach, and you got to think Monangai will get at least a fair crack after ripping off 175. I think both running backs, Swift and Monangai, they're both inside my top 20. That's how bad the Giants' run defense is. So I'm going to go with Monangai, absolutely worth starting as a running back today. Depends who your other guy is. What are the other options? I'd be happy to help you weigh them through, Game Machine. But ultimately, is he worth starting? Absolutely. The matchup. So Robbie coming in each and every week and hitting, $5, $10, I think multiple $10 super chats in multiple weeks. Very kind, very, very generous of you, Robbie. Thank you so, so much, good sir. Really, really greatly appreciate it. 24 super chats on the day. You guys are incredible. But especially Robbie, $10. You're very, very kind, very generous, sir. Good morning. Would you take a chance starting Brissett over Darnold? I need upside. Your thoughts? I mean, I think Brissett, it's crazy as this words coming out of my mouth are going to sound. I do think Brissett has higher upside than Darnold. He's gone over 20 fantasy points in all 3 of his games so far as a starter. That being said, though, I just if everything was going to crumble down, this Seahawks defense is very, very legit. Great front seven, so they're going to be pressuring Brissett. Solid enough secondary that's gotten healthy, throughout the bye weeks. And Darnold, the risk with him is they get up big, and when they get up big, they don't really keep the gas pedal down. We saw it last week. I mean, 4 touchdowns, almost 300 yards in the first half, 28 fantasy points, quarterback 5. He could have had 50 fantasy points if they kept their foot on the gas pedal. So that's the thing. This offense is elite. Now you add Rashid Shaheed, it gets even better. I think I gotta be bumping Sammy Darnold a little bit. I'd rather have him than Jordan Love. He belongs in that quarterback 1 tier at minimum. I know, Krana, if you're still tuned in, like with that weather, I am kind of starting to think Sam Darnold over Caleb Williams even, because 3 of these last 4 games have been top 10. I just think there is more upside there. You're going for upside, like you said, Robbie. I think that there's similar ceilings there with 3 of the last 4 for Darnold being top 20. All of Brissett's, or rather 20 more points, not top 20, 20 fantasy points or more. And then Brissett, all 3 of his starts have been 20, but there's just a much more baked-in floor to Darnold, who I think they might be trying to MVP odds play into that narrative a little bit. So I like Darnold today. I'm bumping him up the rankings as I dive in and research a little bit more. Arizona is a good defense. Let me just see how good. But I mean, as somebody who had Dak last week, I know that this is not a pushover. Yeah, 25th in terms of points allowed to the quarterback position. But I also don't think, they faced Rattler, Bryce Young, Mac Jones. Darnold had 16 against them. And this offense is humming at a much different level now. Cam Ward, Daniel Jones, Jordan Love, Dak. Not exactly a murderer's row of defenses. If Bryce Young and Daniel Jones can put up 22 or more, I think Darnold on his next go at this team certainly could do it. So I'm going to go Darnold over Brissett. And Krana, if you're still tuned in, I think I am going to put Darnold above Caleb Williams with that weather. With that, this might just become a quick ground and pound, get out, 12-point Caleb type of day. I'm going to ultimately flip those guys. And with the weather, I'm going to bump down Rome and DJ Moore a little bit. I know that's not part of your question, Robbie. Thank you again so much for your generous super chat. Going Darnold over Brissett, needing upside. They both have similar ceilings. I just think Darnold's floor is a lot safer to go after as well. Thank you guys. 24 super chats. Very, very kind and generous. At this point, it's 9:20. I'm going to publish these rankings. I'm just bumping Rome down a couple spots due to the weather. DJ Moore, he's right around where I have him, but maybe I'll go Addison above him because it is a little bit of a concern here that they can just pound the rock. They probably will. We've seen Ben Johnson do that, like 40 carry days and barely throw it, and this seems like it might be that script. So I'm bumping the receiving weapons down just a bit in that game. So I'm going to publish this. These rankings are going to be live at rotostreetjournal.com. I normally don't do this till after the show, but again, when we have these games out in Berlin today, starting at 9:30, and I did make a few changes to like Daniel Jones getting bumped down just a slight bit. So I do want to make sure to get this through. So thank you guys so much for your patience as you're waiting for me to make sure this is out and live. If you don't mind hitting that thumbs up button on YouTube, almost 4,000 of you here, 3,700 live with us at the moment. So greatly appreciated of having you here. Please consider hitting that thumbs up button, the heart on YouTube or on Twitter, the thumbs up on YouTube. And we'd love to have any new people subscribe. We go live every Sunday morning there at 8 a.m. Go live every Thursday at 4:30 to help you sift through your lineup decisions. Would be so greatly appreciated. But check out rotostreetjournal.com as well. These rankings are published, and now I'm just sending it through. All righty. And it is, I got to just hit publish. Thank you guys again so much. We did have a super chat from my man Hollywood French Bulls, your second super chat of the day. So greatly appreciated. Sunday, 11-9. These London games they get tricky here because you got to get the rankings done and you don't want to get dinged in the contest for not getting your moves in. All righty. This says Cairo Santos for a kicker earlier. You sure with the weather? That's a good point. I mean, I don't give nearly as much. I won't lie, Hollywood French Bulls. I don't give nearly as much thought to the kickers, but I do think wind is certainly a decent concern there for the kicking game. So let me go back to my kickers and really dive in, because that does, the wind will impact that. So I am gonna bump Santos down. I think I pivot over to Tyler Loop at this point. And if you want to go to Reichard, that's also totally fine. But I think with the weather there, absolutely makes sense. I mean, I do like the Rams kicker. I won't. And Zane Gonzalez and Berlin potentially intriguing as well. Younghoe Koo for the Giants, but that's also in that weather. So I'm going to say I'll go Tyler Loop as the highest upside with Will Reichard. I just think the Pats game becomes a little bit too much of a needing touchdowns type of situation. Let me see what Will Reichard's done recently. 18, 6, 11. Not bad in his last few. That is intriguing. I think Loop is the best play here, though. Can kick a couple 50-yarders with the best of them. So give me Tyler Loop for you, Hollywood French Bulls. Thank you for double super chat. And sorry you had to make me reconsider the kicker. I should have already kind of factored the weather in for you. Start 3 for Quincy Davis, your second super chat of the day. Very kind and generous of you, sir. Myers, Quentin Johnston, Slayton, or Singletary. I would be going Quentin Johnston, definitely my favorite of this group. Big plays. Steelers give up a ton of big plays. 2 wide receivers, and he's a huge big play threat. He had that one goose egg, but otherwise, Quentin Johnston's been extremely solid all year. I think Slayton is my next favorite option of this group. And then to me, Devin Singletary is he got 7 points out of him last week. That was fine. And the weather should kind of dictate that. But he said Tracy's our starter. He's our guy. We're going to try to reestablish him. I don't love Myers' first week on the team. Tough matchup against Houston, though. We're talking Jacoby Myers. So, to me, Johnson, Slayton, no-brainers. I'd probably go Singletary and just the tough weather. Chicago's not a good defense. And let me see how they are against the running backs. I just want to make sure Chicago's top 13 against running backs. So 13 both points allowed, rather. So solid matchup enough for Singletary. He just feels so uninspiring to have him in the lineups. But Myers is just like the new team. How acclimated are you? Trevor Lawrence is trash. He locks onto his first reads, which I can't imagine they design a ton of stuff for Myers with him just brand new in the system. So I'm going to go Johnson, Slayton, Singletary. I wish there were better options. I'll toss out just a handful of guys for you to consider, Quincy. I assume Tez Johnson is long gone. I'm assuming Alec Pierce is long gone. Parker Washington's probably not out there if you're going Myers. Is Demario Douglas I'd rather have over Singletary, upside in a potential shootout. I like Olamide Zaccheaus, even in that tough weather. I think that's solid. I mean, Christian Watson's probably gone, but if he's out there, just some other names to consider, Quincy, over Singletary and Myers. Demario Douglas being my favorite, kind of out there in a ton of leagues, sleeper type of situation. Thank you so much for the double super chats. And Dylan Smith, thank you so much for the super chat as well, sir. Fannin or Andrews, Goddard or Jawan, Zay or Vidal. A couple interesting questions here. I am leaning Andrews over Fannin. I had that entering the day, but now that Fannin's cleared, coming off that 8 target, 6 catch, top 5 performance. Jets not good against tight ends. Andrews so touchdown dependent. Maybe you get the touchdowns, but if I had to make this choice, I'd probably go Fannin, and I don't know that my rankings reflect that. So let me make sure that is updated, because that's what I believe for sure. So, Fannin getting the bump ahead. I'm just going to bump down Andrews there. And then I do have Goddard above Juwan Johnson, by about I have Goddard tight end 7 and Johnson tight end 17. So that one's not as close for me. But I do like Harold Fannin, the route share, the athleticism. He looks so good. So a little worried about a potential pregame, or rather an in-game flare-up, and then boom, you're dealing with a 0. But we've seen Andrews play a full game and be 0 this year. He's got some real touchdown or bust 3, 2, 2, 3, 14. Yeah, a lot of those games came without Lamar, but a lot of them came with Lamar, 0.5 and 0.4. And likely he just continues to ramp up. I had Andrews higher than I wanted to. So bumping him down, bumping Fannin up. I go with Fannin in that one. And then, like I said, Goddard definitely ahead of Juwan. Huge red zone threat. I know I heard a stat that like nobody's been more touchdown dependent. Like 40% of his fantasy points have been touchdowns for Goddard, but he's used as like a goal line back now with those shovel passes. Like the Green Bay, also a top 10 matchup for tight ends as well. So I like Goddard a lot. I like Fannin over Andrews. Zay or Vidal? I'm going to go with Zay. Vidal, he did not impress me. He's been great against those the worst of run defenses in the league. And otherwise, it's been very mediocre at best. So I like going Goddard. I like going Zay Flowers. I like that game environment. I heard like contradicting stats in that nobody doubles wide receiver ones more than the Vikings. Not good for Zay, but also nobody's better against the blitz in zone coverage, similar to what Flores does a ton, than Lamar Jackson and Zay Flowers. So I think he breaks loose for a big one today. I like Zay Flowers. I'm off Vidal, and maybe that's going to kill me because I've definitely told some people to bench Vidal over, even like Jordan Addison. But I like Zay Flowers a lot. Now Lamar's back. And I think the Vikings, as long as they can push this team a little bit, we get a fun little shootout in the dome there today. Dave L, 5389, Caleb or Fields, 4 points for pass touchdowns. Thank you. I would go Caleb. I know I just expressed concern over the weather and concern over this team just pounding the rock and bleeding this team out. But then you got Fields on the other side. Sure, are we even sure he's starting? We had Eric Gled say we have a quarterback. I think obviously, how do you bench the guy? He got you the win against the Bengals. I understand. But what he does well for fantasy is run. And what the Browns do very well is defend the run. And that worries me for Fields. Plus an in-game bench risk for Fields as well. Caleb's going to play the whole game. It's just a matter of like, do they actually just score every single touchdown on the ground? It could happen. We've seen that with Ben Johnson's offenses before where Goff plays well, but he still only put up 8 fantasy points because every touchdown went to a running back. This feels kind of like that type of game for Caleb. I'm not going to lie. But he's facing the Giants. It's a very bad pass defense too. So could all the touchdowns end up being your play action Loveland? Then DJ Moore rips a screen. Adunze gets deep for one. And suddenly you got Caleb with another 28-point bonanza. To me, there's just a safer floor and ceiling to Caleb today over Fields. Very tough Cleveland run D. It's a pass funnel, but Fields, you're not playing for the passing anyways. So I'm going to go with Caleb over Fields for that one. And thank you again for the super chat there, Dave, as well. All righty. I believe did I miss this? I missed a super chat. I apologize there. Hollywood French Bulls. Somehow that one slipped my radar. My man over there, though, David Campanelli, always at the sticks, knows watching that chat. And thank you so much. We got Monangai versus Vidal. My gut says Monangai, but I'm in limbo. My gut says Monangai too. We keep emphasizing that. Don't want to beat the dead horse here. The complete corpse of the Giants run defense, that is. But they're bad. They're very, very bad. As a lot of the Giants fans tuning in have seen, they're horrific. And so I think absolutely Swift and Monangai can both get there. Whereas no Chargers running back will probably get there against the Steelers D that's really, really started to stiffen up as the year has gone on. And they already were a tough matchup. They've been even tougher these last few weeks. So I'm going to go Monangai. I'm fully with you. Your gut's there too, Hollywood French Bulls. And sorry again to miss that super chat. I don't believe I've missed any others. My apologies. I know Hollywood French Bulls, you're probably still here, but you paid early to get that thought, and I completely missed that one. So my apologies. Coach Zeke came in with a fire question, and I completely missed that. So my bad. Thank you so much, though, and to Campanelli for catching that one for me. That is 28 super chats. That wraps up the super chats as of right now. Thank you guys so much for your generosity. 4,100 of you here. This is close to a new record. I think 4,200 is the record. If you enjoy what you're hearing, a free way to help your guy is that thumbs up on YouTube, the heart button on Twitter. Unbelievable to have 4,100 of you here live this morning. So greatly appreciated, guys. And, of course, check out rotostreetjournal.com where we breed and feed you fantasy wolves. It's already 9:30. That game is kicking off at this point. And so got to make sure those rankings are in. They are. And now I'm probably going to go rapid fire because this is a big mailbag. In about 10 minutes, I'm just going to get to a rapid fire. And just I see you have like 15 questions here, so I'm just going to go through yours quick. Happy Sunday. Pick one receiver, one flex. DK, Addison, Vidal, Gadsden, or Shaheed. I'm flexing Gadsden, and I'm going to go Addison for the wide receiver. Vidal or Swift? I'm going to go Swift. Love that Giants matchup. Giuseppe also asking Brown, Vidal, or Monty. I'm going to go A.J. Brown. Yes, that one on Thursday. I already got you there. 2 QBs from Brissett, Rodgers, McCarthy, Fields, or Davis Mills. I'm going to go McCarthy and Brissett for those ones. Giuseppe Russo asking Pitt, 2 flex, Tez Johnson, Parker, Washington, Loveland, Singletary, Kirk, Frymuth, or Myers. I'm going to go Tez and Parker, Washington. Loveland doesn't intrigue me. I'm going to go Loveland and Tez, actually, over Parker, Washington there. Thank you, Giuseppe, for so many great questions as well, brother. Greatly appreciate it. And then we got Eric Buckman. Good to see you, Eric. QB, Love, Williams, or Jones. I'm going to go with Danny Dimes on that one. Wide receiver, pick one. J-Mo, Tez, or Slayton. I like J-Mo. Bounce, they made a point of getting him that rock last week. You got the horrible reeling Commanders defense there. I like that one. Very slightly over Tez there. And then Loveland, Musgrave, or Barner. I'm going to go with Loveland. We don't even know if Barner's going to play. Musgrave, a very tough matchup for tight ends, despite that intriguing role elevation. Loveland off a 26-point day. I'm going to ride that hot hand. Good, sir. Juan Pena, let me get some quick water, and then we'll be on to your question, good sir. Got to stay hydrated during these. All righty. Mr. Pena, official. Official Juan Pena, 24. Who for wide receiver 2, 3, and flex spots? Debo, Quentin, Tez Johnson, Myers, Douglas, Parker, Washington, Henderson, DeMarcado, or Charbonnet. So I like Debo and Quentin Johnson for the wide receiver 2 and 3, both top 24 wide receivers for me this week. Mariota and Debo showed fine chemistry in their earlier games. Detroit, a top 5 matchup. They're going to definitely need points. So I like some garbage time Debo, and I love Herbert to carve up that Steelers zone, including Quentin Johnson getting deep on it. The flex decision boils down to Tez versus Henderson for me. I think I'm going to go Henderson, go for the featured back in this one. Very close, though, because it is a tough run D for the Bucs. But ultimately, I do really like Tez today. I'm going to go Henderson still for that final flex spot. Very close, though, compared to him versus Tez. So trust your gut on that one, Juan. What's going on, Fatty Mateo? Great to see you, sir. Full PPR. Loveland, Fannin, Njoku, Theo, 65% favorites. So you want some safety. Unfortunately, none of these guys are ultimately safe because you got Fannin and Njoku. Any which one could nibble the other's cheese and pop up. Theo, very touchdown dependent. Loveland, we've got one good game on the resume, but it was a banger of a game, and it was last week. So you hope that trending is the right way. I'm going to go with Loveland because, again, as a favorite, you want the safest option. I don't think he's the safest, but I also – that ceiling is massive. All these guys have – I guess Fannin would be the one that, you're probably getting 5 targets no matter what. But ultimately, Loveland, after a 26-point blow-up, I got to keep rolling that one for you, Fatty Mateo. Licio Ranelli, half PPR, 1 receiver, 1 flex. Quentin Johnston, Alec Pierce, Vidal, and Henderson. So Quentin Johnson would be my favorite receiver here, and Henderson would be the flex. Pierce being very, very close there, though, too. I love those 13 targets last week. But give me Quentin, give me Henderson. Bulldog, good morning. Please pick one in the flex. Kittle, Monangai, Rashad White. You have Tyler Warren. Yeah, so I would probably play Warren over Kittle. I agree with that. I'm going to go – it comes down – I'm not going to be White for me. Again, that Patriots run D is so, so good. You really need the touchdown for White, or maybe he racks up 8 catches, but I just think no. So give me Kittle versus Monangai. Very tricky flex question. I'm biased because I have Kittle in so many leagues, but I think they're going to really need him against the Rams. It's definitely a passing type of day there. So I'm gonna go Kittle. I'm gonna go Kittle very slightly over Monangai. Very close. I probably would go Monangai if I had the option. But Swiss back. You can hear the inner turmoil here because I love Monangai, but he also is in a committee. as soon as you bench Kittle, Bulldog, you know this song and dance. It's happened to me before, and granted, it is when he has his boy Brock Purdy, there's a no-brainer. You always play Kittle with Brock Purdy. But how many times have you been frustrated with Kittle? You put him on the bench, and he has 30. And maybe today's that day. I'm going to go Kittle. I just can't bench Kittle. Tet or Vidal, I'd go Vidal. I'm worried about that hamstring for Tet, and the upside just doesn't justify the risk of playing somebody with a potential flare-up. Mobbin 2, sit 1 today. Kyron, Judkins, Jalen Warren, Rashad White. I would go I'd sit Rashad White, I think. Yeah, with that tough Patriots run D. To me, that stands out the most. I like all the other options there. Mariota, J.J. McCarthy, or Penix for Mobbin. I'm going to go with McCarthy. Looked the best professional game we've seen from him. Shootout-style atmosphere against the Ravens today. I like that at home in the Dome. Laporta or Gadsden. Oh, man, two of my favorite tight ends of the week, Mobbin. I got to go with Gadsden, though. Looking like a true target hog tight end. I'm letting that rip, which is insane. But 22-14, and that's in standard, so let's assume it's half PPR. We got 26, 16, and 9, and 8 even in the game before that. Very solid performances from Gadsden. Huge part of this offense. Laporta in a great spot, too. My tight end 6. I wish you could flex one of them. I love both these guys, but I go Gadsden over Laporta. Should I start Blake Corum or Tootin over Kamara? He's trash, but I have a hard time benching him. He is trash. Honestly, Bulldog, I think I'd go for Tootin and just hope for a touchdown. He's been a pretty good touchdown bet. You're getting nothing out of Kamara. He's just completely washed. Let's go. Thank you, Campanelli, laying down the law as the moderator, doing a phenomenal job this morning, tracking down the super chats, keeping people in line. Love it. Ross H. Wolf, what's good? Start Quentin Johnston, Tet, Downs, or Slayton. I like Quentin Johnston there. Again, really one horrific zero target dud. Otherwise, been very solid all year. This is a great matchup for Herbert. Carves up zone. Nobody runs zone more than Tomlin. I like QJ there. Mobbin. Start 2. Quentin Johnson, Dobbs, Shakir, Pierce, J-Mo, Slayton. It's Quentin Johnson again for me. And then I probably go Dobbs with all the targets consolidated there. I go Quentin, I go Dobbs. We got Krana, bench 1, cold brew, hot chocolate, espresso, or latte. Big iced coffee guy, so definitely keeping cold brew. Love me some hot chocolate. And you got to have espresso added to either of those. It's delicious. So I'm going to bench a latte. I don't get a ton of lattes myself, Krana. And we got to pick 2, T-Mac, Debo, Diggs, Henderson, or Rashad White. I'm going to go Debo and Diggs very slightly over Henderson. Benching T-Mac and Rashad White in that one too. But I think Debo, Diggs versus Henderson. I go Debo and Diggs. Baker or Stafford, 6-point pass touchdowns. Oh, Stafford does get a nice boost up there too. I mean, Baker, the same idea as well. I'm going to go Baker very slightly over Stafford. My quarterback 8 versus quarterback 9. I think both those game environments I'm very intrigued by. Both at 48.5, and I think both at the overs. But I like Baker there. And then Wandale, Dobbs, or DJ Moore in full PPR. I like Wandale. I do. DJ Moore, very explosive too, but Wandale in a full PPR, just much more guaranteed volume and catch upside. And then finally, Igbuka, Collins, Flowers. I do worry about Christian Gonzalez shadowing Igbuka, but I got to go him. Clear-cut number 1. Been balling out most of this year. Full bye week to kind of get himself fully healthy. I like Igbuka there. But you do have Nico Collins, huh? How can you not have like all 3 of these guys? 'Cause I love Zay Flowers too. Oh man. And Davis Mills actually can kind of pepper Collins too. I actually would go Collins just because then you don't have to deal with that shadow potential risk for Igbuka. Alec Pierce or Nico? You got to go Nico there, Ariana. I know it's too late at this point, but I would definitely be going Nico there. It is 11:40, and this mailbag is quite full. I want to get to as many people as I can. So let me, Tomas, I'm going to kick off a 20-minute timer starting in just a second. Going to do my final pump here of everything. We got a new record, I believe, at this point, 4,280. Maybe you're going to hit 4,300. That would be absolutely a new record live with us. That is incredible. Thank you so much, everybody, for being here on your Sunday mornings. Please consider hitting that thumbs up button on YouTube, the heart button on Twitter. It does help us grow and get out to more people if you find this helpful. Thank you for the 28 super chats. That was so kind and so generous. If anybody does super chatting, we will definitely bump that up to the front of the line and slow down the rapid fire. I'll try my best to get through every single question. This is a loaded mailbag, so no promises. Sorry if I cannot get to you guys. I'm going to do my best, though, to mow through as many questions right now as I can. One last call for rotostreetjournal.com. And new subscribers as well to the YouTube channel. We're making that climb towards 5,000. Would love to have you potentially subscribe and help us continue to grow that number. And, of course, to check out these rankings free always at rotostreetjournal.com. Article about Tez Johnson I wrote this weekend. Tons of other good sit starts. Our writers are the best. Love, love, love our crew there. Thank you again so much for being here. Let's go, Wolfpack. Rapid fire time. 4,300 of you. Thank you so much again for spending your Sunday mornings with me. Mr. Tomas Medina over in Panama. Who to flex? Tet, Vidal, Rashad, or Jawan? I would be going probably Vidal in that one, despite not loving him this week. Have PPR flex, Quentin Johnson, Dobbs, or Warren. I'd be going with Quentin Johnson. I love him this week. I think that's a great matchup for the entire pass game. Mohamed Solomon. Should I start Slayton, Otten, or Downs? I like Downs in that one. Mohamed, I think you super chatted it earlier. The more I research Downs, the more I like him. Like, share, and subscribe. People best in the biz. Thank you so much, Giuseppe Crusoe. Monangai or White? I like Monangai there, Kevin Border. Harrison asking, Aaron Jones, Jordan Mason, Devin Singletary. I like Aaron Jones of the Vikings backfield. I don't like Devin Singletary ever. So give me Aaron Jones there. AJ Lee, PPR, half tight end premium, pick one. Davis, Dulcich, Kyle Williams, Burden. Oh, we are in the weeds here. I would probably go with Burden and just hope for a big play. Although this bad weather, maybe Dulcich catching a bunch of balls last week. Sutton disappears and it kills me. He sucks. I agree with you there. Hoping for a win this week. I've had a horrible Thursday night football game with Knicks. Yeah, that was just one of the worst things we ever watched. Dr. Penis, nice name there. I feel like you troll my account all the time, and now you're here asking questions, but I'd go Loveland over on, and I'll still answer the question for you. But stop trolling if you're going to ask questions. Come on, sir. DJ Johnson, happy Sunday, Nick. Full PPR. Thank you, sir. Happy Sunday to you, DJ. DK, Etienne, or Tracy. I like Etienne for that one. Are we concerned about the shy weather? We did cover that, Dylan. Yeah, the more I research it, the more concerned the gusts of wind. The precipitation should be done, but the gusts of wind are a concern. And when you can bleed the clock, you can just pound the rock. I think the Bears will do just that today. So I did bump down some of the passing game weapons. It's still playable, but bump them down. And you're welcome, Massimo guy. Thank you again for your super chat. Michael Rasheen, full PPR. Flex Woody, Parker, or Flex Woody or Parker Washington. Full PPR. I think Parker Washington is the nice pivot there. Definitely a solid target upside there for him. Carlos Gallegos, start Collins or A.J. Brown or Roma Dunze. I like Nico Collins. Shows a good rapport there with Davis Mills. Alpha Gator, I'm going Montgomery over Rashad White. That matchup is just too scary for me against the Pats run. Paul P saying Singletary, DeMarcado, or Jennings have PPR. I'll go with Jennings on that one. Alpha Gator, start one PPR. Etienne, T-Mac, or Rashad White. I'm going Etienne there. ETW Byrne, Trevion Swift, or Shaheed. You need two. I'd be benching Shaheed, see what he does. I think he does become an every week starter for you sooner, but I like both Swift and Trevion a lot this week. Loveland or Fannin, we're going Loveland for that one. Both intriguing options, though. William G. Start Breece Hall or Gadsden. I'm going Gadsden. Huge Gadsden guy. James Coffey in full PPR. Would you start Tez Johnson or Ladd McConkey? Thank you. I know that's Coffee over from Beverly, but if so, great to see you in the stream here, good sir. Hopefully you're laying the law down on J. Mike over there, if that is you. Huge Tez guy. I wrote an article about him this week. I'm starting him myself, and I want my biases to kick me over. But, hey, if I had an option to play Ladd, like I said, I think Herbert carves up this zone defense of the Steelers, and Ladd being a big part of that, big zone beater for him. So I like Ladd a lot, especially in full PPR. I think we get a classic Ladd day today, James. And then we got full point PPR. Pick two out of Monangai, Henderson, Juwan, or Rashad White. I like Monangai for sure, John. My favorite of the options, and I'd probably go Henderson a little slightly over Juwan Jennings. I'm not on White this week with that tough Pats defense, especially run defense. Morning Scansy, standard 10-man league, start Daniel Jones, Williams, or Mayfield. I'd go Mayfield in over Darnold as well there. Rome or McMillan. I'm going to go with Rome, Saul. Good to see you, brother. Just that hamstring worries me. Lonely Stoner, 401F. And the lonely times, I'll stone with you. What's going on, brother? 12-team PPR, 6-3. Baker or double up with Darnold and JSN. Stack them up. I like Baker more than Darnold, though, this week. Maybe you spread your bets out a little bit there. JSN's always going to get there for you. I think Baker is the play in a shootout-style game today. Start 2 between Waddle, White, Hendo, Judkins. Definitely Waddle, definitely Judkins for me. Good options all around, but I like Waddle and Judkins there. Wan'Dale Robinson or Kamani Vidal. I go Robinson there, Giuseppe Russo. Tez or Pierce. That's like literally my 30 and 31 or something of that nature, Ferg. In standard scoring, I'm going to go with Tez, though. I prefer Tez. Pierce is great, too. That 13-target day, no joke. And maybe he's already scored a long touchdown. I'm not watching the game as we speak, but I like Tez Johnson today a lot. 12-team PPR, 6-3. You already asked this one a few times, Lonely Stoner. Vidal or Henderson? I'm going to go with Henderson there. Concerned about the wind? It's concerning, but I don't think it's a avoid the game now type of thing. Pierce or Fannin? I would go Pierce there, Kyle FF. Tet, Rashad White, Debo, Wan'Dale, Dobbs. Pick 3 for Steven Pereira. We're going to go with Debo. We're going to go with Wan'Dale, and we're going to go with Dobbs in that one, Steven. Habai Tai, Loveland or Musgrave? I'm going Loveland after that blow-up last week. Who knows what we're going to get out of Musgrave. PP Rand, Olalobo. What's going on, sir? Demario Douglas or Darius Slayton, non-PPR? Especially non-PPR. I like Slayton there. Go for the big play touchdown. Harrison Jr. or Laporta? I actually like Laporta in that one. Any confidence in Keenan Allen? That route share is going down big time. This could be the right matchup. They're Steelers getting killed by slot receivers. I'd probably go Allen over Otten. I don't know. That's tough. Alex G, sit 1 in PPR. Wan'Dale, Diggs, Henderson. I'd probably sit Henderson, that tough run D there, especially in full PPR. Wan'Dale getting that boost. We did have a super chat, so Lamont Pace is at 8.29. I'll come back to that one. Cody Welsh with the $2 super chat. Thank you so much. Flex spot, pick 1. White, Olave, Debo. I like Debo slightly over Olave today. That juicy matchup against the Detroit Lions. Whereas Olave, I kind of want to see with Shuck. I'm playing Olave myself. My wide receiver 21. I really like him, but Debo's my wide receiver 19. Tyler Shuck only 4 targets to Olave, 3 catches last week. You got your Shaheed removed now, so probably a bunch of that gets funneled to Olave now. But if I can bench Olave, if I have an option like Debo, I would bench Olave, and I would. And Rashad White, again, not considering him in many of these because the Pats' run D is just so ferocious. But thank you so much, Cody Welsh, for the super chat. We left off at 8.29 with Lamont Pace, rather. Tyler Warren, Loveland, or Otten. I'd go Tyler Warren. Scary matchup because of the Falcons. I believe the lowest points allowed, but I'm going to go with Warren there. I have Warren and Kittle. They're both struggling. I have Kyle Pitts and Otten. I would go with Warren and then Kittle. Be how I'd rank those two. Jay Simpson, full PPR, pick 2. Hall, Garrett Wilson, or Jennings. Also Ravens, Bucks, or Jags, D. I would go Garrett Wilson, and I would go Hall for those two, and then I would go with the Jags, D on that one. Lucius Varanus, half PPR. Debo, Shakir, Wan'Dale. I would go with Debo over the other 2.5 PPR. You trust in Fan this week, or would you roll Loveland, Otten, or Jawan Johnson for Dustin Wells? I would be going Loveland over Fannin. A little worried about that hamstring. William G, thank you so much for the super chat. Breece Hall or Gadsden Ford? I think Oronde Gadsden might be who you mean. I'm going to go Oronde Gadsden in a full PPR. I just, again, think Herbert's going to carve the Steelers defense up. Toughest matchup for running backs are right there with it. Bottom 2 matchup for Breece Hall today. Coming off a 30-point day, very scary to bench him. But ultimately, I do worry about that Cleveland run D. They are definitely a matchup to avoid. And I love Gadsden. I love the way he's cooking. So I'm just going to keep rolling him out there. Going with Gadsden over Breece Hall. Fannin or Hawkinson for Giuseppe. I'm going to go with Fannin on that one. George Kittle or Cade Otten, Kyle Pitts or Ty Warren. I would go with Kittle. I'd go Ty Warren. Warren's my favorite if they're all in one question, by the way. I'd rank them Warren, Kittle, Pitts, Otten. Joe Felon, non-PPR, pick 1 receiver, flex, 1 Waddle. We got Waddle, Vidal, Pittman, A.J. Brown, Swift. If he plays, Swift is expected to play. For the wide receiver, I go with Pittman. I go Waddle over Pittman very slightly. I go Pittman in the flex, though. I go Waddle and Pittman for this one. Swift being the close third there. Hollywood French Bulls, happy Sunday. Let's get these W's indeed, good sir. What's up, Jaws? Good morning, Wolf and Pack. Good morning to you too, sir. Might test your Tet rank in T-Mac or Olave. I would go with Olave on that one. Yeah, I am worried again about that hamstring for Tet and just the ceiling there. Why play him if you don't have to type of situation. What do you think about the weather? We talked about that one a few times. A little bit bumped down there for the kicker, for the passing game, and especially with Chicago able to just bleed that clock and run it down their throats. I think that's exactly what happens. TSB World, need a Superflex QB, Tyler Shuck or Davis Mills? I'd go Davis Mills. You are down bad, though. That is ugly. But thank you so much for your kind words of encouragement as well. Yo, Olave or Shaheed, Flex or Washington? I would go Olave over Shaheed and, again, see what Shaheed does. I know he has that familiarity. Definitely not going Parker Washington. Don't trust that. I go Olave. I go Olave in this one. Ball thoughts. Downs, Henderson, Vidal need 2. I'd probably bench Vidal there. But if you didn't, then, Henderson, Vidal, it's close. It's fine. But I'd probably bench Vidal there. Sylvester White, Woody Marks, or Monangai? I like Monangai on that one. Uncle Ted, Mooney or Jacoby? I'd go with Mooney. We got Jose Rodriguez. 1 receiver, 1 flex, 1 tight end. Tez, Jennings, Shaheed, Brees, Kittle, Ty, Warren. I would be going Kittle at tight end. I'd go Tez at wide receiver. And I probably would have flexed Warren. If you don't have that option, I think I go to Brees Hall there. Zay Flowers or Rome Odunze today, Liam Riley. This is one where it's like the weather, how big does it impact the rankings? I'd probably stick with Odunze, though. It's scary weather, but the Giants secondary is so bad, too. Caleb Williams or Stafford? I'm going with Stafford given the weather concerns. Cameron Wizik, Pierce or Tez Johnson? I like Tez Johnson on that one. Joseph Diol, Tet, Olave, or Warren? I'm going to go with Warren. Start 1 receiver, 1 flex. Tez, QJ, Tet, Addison, or Diggs? I'd be going with Addison and QJ for this one. No, Diggs. Diggs is in that question. So I'm going to go Diggs and Addison, I believe is where I would land on that one. Thoughts on Trevion? Tough Rundy. Should get featured work. Jennings is still annoyingly involved, though, so not a must-play for me. Cameron Zwickel. Vidal or Monangai? I'm going Monangai on that one. Cameron Zwick. Cameron Schmidt. Tez or Parker Washington? I like Tez Johnson there. Tez, Tet, Jennings, Shaheed, Slayton. Pick one for Jose. I like Tez the most. I do. Great stuff, brother. Thank you, MJ Devilman. Flex spot and tight end help. Full PPR flex. Jennings or Monangai? I like Monangai there. Tight end spot, Otten or Fannin? I'm going to go with Otten. Enjoy your Sunday too, good sir. Thanks for your kind words. Half PPR, Pierce or T-Mac? Thanks, brother. I would go with Pierce over T-Mac. I really would. What about Cam Little? It got some upside, Hollywood French Bulls. The guy can kick 70-yarders, but Houston's D is so good, I don't think you get that 15-point ceiling you're looking for. I'd go Loop, I think. I have Boswell, so I don't have to think about kicker. It's set and forget for me. Jose Rodriguez, I think Carolina's game plan is going to be Dowdle. I agree. I don't see McMillan. I'm fully on the same page with you, Jose. Cody Welsh. This is the super chat we had earlier. Flex spot, Debo, Olave, White. It was Debo for me. Reginelli, Harris, Alec Pierce, or Jawan Jennings, help. I go Alec Pierce there, Reginelli. And if you didn't, they're very close. So, very close in my rankings there. Do I play Dicker over Jake Elliott because of windy weather? Yeah, you should play Dicker over Elliott anyways. Dicker's just the man. Cameron Zwickel, Pierce, Tez, and Vidal or Monangai. For receiver, I go Tez, and for flex, I go Monangai there. Super flex, Mac Jones or Fields, go Mac Jones there, Tunes. We got Tunes, Henderson or Jennings. I would go with Henderson there. PPR, 1 receiver, 1 flex. Pierce or Tez Johnson? Stop repeating your questions there, sir. Not going to answer it 3 times now. Scott McKay, Odunze with bad weather or Tet with the hammy? I like Odunze. I'd rather have the bad weather than the hammy myself. Che Ambrose. I need 1 running back, 1 flex, and a full PPR. Etienne, Ken Walker, DK Metcalf, Keenan Allen. I like going with Etienne, and then the flex, I'm going to go with DK on that one. Who takes your IR spot, Hunter or Reed? I go Reed. Should be back soon enough for sure. PPR flex, Vidal or Monangai? I like Monangai there. Girl dad, yes, let's go. That's right, Hollywood French Bulls. I was like, that name stands out. You're the girl dad, man. Let's go. Can't wait in 5 minutes to go squeeze and hold my little girl and watch some football all day with her. Going to be a blast. And on that note, we have 6 minutes left in the rapid fire. I'm going to do my best to make it through all these, but one more call. 4,600 of you here live. So amazing. Please do consider hitting that thumbs up button on YouTube, the heart button on Twitter, and go check out rotostreetjournal.com where all of these rankings will be live and updated for all you good folks. Thank you again so much for spending your Sunday mornings. Final 5 minutes. Here we go. Last push here. 9-10. Beast of the East, half PPR. Flex Monty or Gadsden. I'm going Gadsden, baby. Jaws bye-week blues, Diami Brown, Josh Palmer, or Coker. That is the blues. I'd go Coker there. Why not be a cokehead if you got to be in those low depths? Ryan James, Daniel Jones, or Caleb. I'm going Danny Jones. Tez or Olamide, I'd go with Tez for sure. Hidden truth. Stafford or Dart, I'm going Dart. Ravens or with this weather, though, am I still going Dart over Stafford? I had Dart up there at QB7. The weather does make me a little concerned. I think I'm going to bump down Dart. That's one I hadn't even thought about. But if all this weather is affecting everybody else, I probably have to bump down Dart a little bit too, even though a lot of his upside is just from his running, and he's probably going to run even more. But I'd rather have Stafford feels better to me. So I'm bumping Jackson Dart down below Stafford. I'm going Stafford, and I would go Ravens defense there. Hello, Ted or Alec Pierce? I would go with Alec Pierce there, the Aussie man. What's the weather in Chicago? It's a lot of gusts of wind. There's precipitation now. Check out Kevin Roth. That's the best follow for weather there, Marcelo. 4 and 5, middle of the pack, 10 team, ranked 5th in points against, points for. Should I trade my 2026 first for no, I don't know. It's just right in the middle, and you sell the farm. I don't think I do that. Pod Son, Nick Chubb, Terrell Jennings, Sean Tucker, Chris Rodriguez. We got to start 2 of these. Oh, boy. I would go Jennings and Chubb, I believe, is where I would play that one, Pod Son. Running backs are Brees Hall, Rico, JCM, Vidal. You got to go with Rico. Oh, this is like your trade thing. Sorry, that's a lot to analyze in a rapid fire right here. Good sir. Lonely Stoner, Baker or double up with Darnold. We already asked that. You asked that one to miss. You must have missed. I'm so sorry about that one again, French Bulldogs, to miss that one. But Kyle Monangai was the play over Vidal for you. J-Mac, 5315. Flex full PPR, Theo Johnson or Ken Walker. I would go with Ken Walker on there. The thicker kicker, Mevis. Is he a thick boy? I haven't even seen him, but I like the thicker kicker there. That sounds good. But I like Badgley. I love the Colts kicker there. You didn't miss it, Bulldog. That was my bad again for missing your question, but hopefully you saw it. Monangai over Vidal. Johnston or Tracy? I'm going Johnston for sure. And I would drop Tracy. Just horrific first start there. Ryan James, Daniel Jones, or Caleb? Daniel Jones for me. Sorry again, I missed that one for you, Bulldog, but hopefully you heard me because my man Campanelli got you there. Alec Pierce or T-Mac? I would go with Alec Pierce there. Matters. Parker Washington or Monangai? Definitely Monangai. Run heavy, hot hand, love it. The Wolf, good morning, the Naganist. So this is Pass the Mic. Good to see you. Don't lie. Good to see you, Pass the Mic. 3 and 6 with a crazy good running back bunch. Got Judkins, Rico, Genty, Henry, Bowers killed me. Oh, brutal stuff, dude. Brutal stuff. Good. I'm glad you caught that, Bulldog. Kamara, Jordan Mason, either Cardinals running back or other for running back. I go DeMarcado in this one. I don't trust Kamara at all, I don't think. Jamo or Monangai? I would go Monangai there, Daniel Hovland. Start 1, Kittle, Tez, Vidal. I would go with Kittle for that one. Theo, Fannin, Schultz, or Loveland? I would be going with Loveland on that one, Sam Stacks. Fighting for my last flex, full PPR, Shaheed or Tracy? I like Shaheed. And I like Shaheed over Parker Washington to it. Mr. Lucky, Mason, K. Walker, Tracy, or Monangai? Monangai, baby. Go, Mr. Lucky. Tunes, 90. Traded Rashad White in the 5th for Sampson and 2 fourths. Yeah, I like that trade. McCarthy or Dart? I would go with Dart over McCarthy, even with the weather concerns today. J-Mac, flex full PPR. Theo Johnson or Walker? It's Walker. Drake May or Caleb Williams? Definitely Drake May. Even without the weather concerns, it was Drake May. You need to start 3 of these running backs. You're going Barkley, you're probably going Henry, and you're going Swift slightly over Monangai and Henderson there. Jose Avalos at receiver. I have Shakir, Keenan, Puka. Come on, you're not asking about Puka. I'm not even answering that question. You can't ask a question about Puka. You're going to Puka, A.J. Brown, and Shakir there. At quarterback, do I start Caleb Williams or Sam Darnold? I would go with Darnold, I believe, at this point, Jose. With that weather concern, I bumped Darnold over Caleb today. Tet or Slayton? I'm going with Tet there. Flex spot, pick 1. Rashad White, Chris Olave, Debo. I would be going with Debo. Debo or Igbuka? You got to go with Igbuka on that one. Final minute here, Wolfpack. Woody Marks or Kyle Monangai? I would go Kyle Monangai. Baker or May? It is May for me under Buckley. Robbie Kamikaze, also worried about Tet hamstring. Woody Marks or Kamani Vidal? I'd go with Kamani Vidal. Baker or Goff? I'm going Baker there. Easy going. Gina Van Deeker, McMillan or Tez? I go Tez Johnson there. Fannin, Loveland, or Theo? I would go with Loveland. And then Nico or Olave? I would definitely go Nico there. Thanks for all you do. Good luck to the Wolfpack. Thanks again. Indeed, have a blessed week yourself. Pass the mic. Great to see you. And Breece Hall or Rachaad White as the final one, the buzzer going off here. I would go Breece Hall despite that tough Cleveland matchup. Rachaad White's an equally tough matchup against the Pats, so give me the better talent, and that is Breece Hall. Wolfpack, 4,700 of you here, a new record by a mile. You guys are the best. 30 super chats, so kind and generous. On your way out, one last call for that thumbs up button. And, of course, any new subscribers, seeing a ton of new names, please do consider hitting that subscribe button and joining us over here at rotostreetjournal.com. And, of course, these rankings will be live and updated at rotostreetjournal.com. You guys are the absolute best. Thank you so, so much for spending your Sunday mornings here with me. Go get those Week 10 wins, Wolfpack, in a world full of fancy sheep. Be the wolf. Later, guys.